Chapter 521, The World is Shocked, 3. The world is shocked. So is the underworld. When the news of the remains getting annihilated was passed around in the underworld, threads were being added into the forums at a frantic speed. Many people found it unbelievable, yet were elated by the fact that the remains were annihilated by the Dragon King of Dragon Sect. On the verge of the war breaking out between the Devil and Orthodox sects, having annihilated one of the 4 Devil sects was as good as weakening Diabolism by 1/5 of their strength. Yesterday, the rumor that Dragon Sect was joining Diabolism had fallen on its own, putting Donghua Sacred Sect in an awkward position instantly. The Donghua Sacred Sect is really embarrassed now. From their statement released yesterday, they were too impatient to deal with Dragon Sect. Donghua Sacred Sect and the rest of the martial artists simply accused Dragon Sect of joining Diabolism, so they just annihilated the remains. Which sacred sects in the underworld are capable of doing so? Even Donghua Sacred Sect would need to make tremendous effort. I don't understand the actions of the Dragon King from Dragon Sect. He just rejected to join the alliance of the Orthodox sects yesterday afternoon and even made Donghua Sacred Sect their sworn enemy. Yet, Dragon Sect annihilated the remains that night. We're just average men who can't see the link. Let me clarify. The Dragon King has made Donghua Sacred Sect a sworn enemy because of Hai Jiao. Hai Jiao wanted to slay the Dragon King. Still, he was defeated by the Dragon King, and Donghua Sacred Sect wanted to protect Hai Jiao. Hence, they became enemies. But why isn't Dragon Sect joining the alliance of the Orthodox sects? Why does no one ask this question? And why does Donghua Sacred Sect want to protect Hai Jiao when he was trying to kill the Dragon King and was eventually defeated? Obviously, Donghua Sacred Sect infuriated Dragon Sect, resulting in Dragon Sect turning their back on them. In any case, it was good that Dragon Sect did not join Diabolism. Otherwise, given the power of Dragon Sect and the strength of the Dragon King, we don't know how much price the underworld must pay just to annihilate Diabolism. In the internet world, netizens overturned their points of view at the speed of lightning. That is how the internet works. Yesterday, many of the martial artists were still chiding the Dragon Sect. Still, more martial artists surfaced to support Dragon Sect and the Dragon King today. However, Wang Xian would not have the slightest interest in this even if he knew about it. At this time, a group of people arrived on the floating island. Wang Xian, we're here to confirm something with you. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan led some of their disciples to the floating island and spoke to Wang Xian as soon as they saw him. Oh, what's the matter? Have you brought all the inborn level materials? Let me see how many inborn spiritual weapons I can exchange with you guys. Wang Xian said to them with a broad smile. Did you really annihilate the remains of Diabolism? Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan stared at him, setting the inborn spiritual weapons aside first. Yes, I met the people from the remains yesterday, and I don't like their ways of doing things. Since I wasn't far from their base camp, I just annihilated them, said Wang Xian without any emotion. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan exchanged glances with their lips twitching. Annihilated the remains as you wished. It is the remains you are talking about. Since the remains could effortlessly annihilate Sui clan and Xiao clan, it seemed like their gaps with Dragon Sect was getting bigger. Fine, you're a demon. Sui Huang took a deep breath and continued, all the inborn level materials that we could get are here. Take a look and see how many weapons can be exchanged. Sure. Wang Xian nodded. The people from Sui clan and Xiao clan carried all the materials forward. Looking at the chests of inborn level materials, radiance was beaming from Wang Xian's eyes as he showed a hint of excitement. Take a look. Xiao Quanshan told Wang Xian as he opened the chests. Wind Featherstone, level 10. Earthy Clay, level 10. Thunder Rock, level 10. Golden Metal Rock, level 10. Ryukinium, level 10. Vibranium, level 11. Ghost Wood, level 11. All the inborn level materials brought by Sui clan and Xiao clan totaled 7 types of different metals. Out of which, 2 were level 11 materials while the rest were level 10. Metal attributed materials made up most of them. This is Wind Featherstone, which is extremely durable, and you almost cannot feel its weight. Earthy clay has a strong stickiness, and it's hard to get rid of once something is stuck on it. Thunder rock was a rock found on Thunder Mountain. It was formed through millions of lightning strikes, and therefore it contains an immense amount of electricity. It could easily electrocute an elephant. Xiao Quanshan and Sui Huang began to introduce the metals to Wang's yarn, in which the number of wind featherstones was the highest, with 60 pieces of it, while vibranium and the ghost wood had the least numbers. Overall, they had quite an amount of inborn level materials. With those, he could craft at least 20 to 30 weapons under the assumption of a 100% success rate. The success rate of smithing weapons and alchemy were on par. But compared to alchemy, some of the materials could be recycled when a weapon failed in the crafting process. With these materials, you guys can forget about Dan Realm weapons. Since you have too little vibranium and ghost wood, I'll give each of you 10 spiritual weapons. What do you think? Asked Wang Xian with a beaming face. Sure. Radiance flashed in the duo's eyes as they nodded in agreement immediately. Initially, the thought of exchanging these materials for 5 weapons inborn spiritual weapons would have made a great deal to them. Since they could exchange 10 now, it had greatly exceeded their expectations. Great, come over and pick your weapons. Wang Xian nodded and brought them to the weapon pavilion. Back on the floating island, Wang Xian had ordered his men to construct a separate pavilion for weapons and elixir pills to distinguish the treasures. All the other forces in the underworld would usually have one treasure vault, but Wang Xian was different. When they entered the weapon pavilion, one could sense a surge of sharpness and heat as a myriad of weapons were hanging on the surrounding walls. The weapons were exuding a faint fire glow as they possessed a unique spirit. This. As soon as Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan entered, their eyes flew open with unbelievable looks. You lad. How did you manage to get so many inborn spiritual weapons? Gosh. Why are there so many over here? The two of them acted like they were some bumpkins, gazing around in shock. I can feel daunting power from that staff over there. That night sword is above the inborn level. It's definitely more than that. Goodness gracious. The two of them looked around with surprise as they almost drooled. Wang Xian looked at them and chuckled. Okay, each of you is allowed to take 10 weapons. Don't say I mean. It's quite a lot. One was the master of his girlfriend, while the other one was the Laozu of his disciple. On top of that, Wang Xian owed them favors. He would not feel bad for giving them 10 weapons each. Hey, Wang Xian. You see. Since you have so many spiritual weapons over here, can you lend me a handy weapon too? Asked Sui Huang to Wang Xian with thick skin. Xiao Quanshan, at the side, twitched his lips upon seeing the way he acted. But he also looked at Wang Xian with a flattering look. I heard that Shuqing was in a bad mood these last few days. I was getting ready to teach her alchemy over the next 2 days. The timing is just right. Sui Huang took out his trump card. Chapter 522, Devil Shadow Masks and Devil Wings. Falling for Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan's shameless pleas, Wang Xian threw 2 weapons casually towards them. Both of them grinned widely as though they were perverts who had their eyes fixed on a stunning beauty. Holding the weapons in their hands, they constantly wiped the weapons. One would have thought they might start drooling. With these weapons, the losses of our Sui clan will be greatly reduced in the upcoming battle against diabolism. Sui Huang looked at the rest of the inborn spiritual weapons, grinned and was beaming with excitement. All right. Now that you got what you wanted, I'm going to send you guys off. Wang Xian took a glance at the inborn level materials beside him and was prepared to start refining equipment. All right. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan didn't take offense with Wang Xian's attitude as they were grinning widely for what they had gotten. They hesitated for a moment before asking, Brother Wang Xian, are you leading the dragon sect to target diabolism in the upcoming battle? Target diabolism? Nope. I'm preparing to deal with Donghua sacred sect. Wang Xian chuckled and shook his head while a ghoulish light flashed across his eyes. Deal with Donghua sacred sect. The two of them were slightly shocked and frowned. Are you really not resting till one of you has perished? When they wanted to protect Hai Jiao, the outcome was decided. Wang Xian continued with a smile, all right. Just be careful in the upcoming battle between the orthodox sects and the devil sects. I'm going to get busy. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan shook their heads, exchanged glances and headed out. Deal with Donghua Sacred Sect. Would the Dragon Sect take action soon? After walking off the floating island, Xiao Quanshan turned to Sui Huang and asked this with a solemn face. It's hard to say. No one really knows what that kid is thinking. However, he's a pretty good person and isn't bad at all at his core. Regardless, let's help each other to reduce our losses for the upcoming battle. Sui Huang heaved a sigh and shook his head. Donghua Sacred Sect made a statement on the Underworld website just a while ago. Oh, what kind of statement? They said that the Dragon Sect annihilating the remains is the right decision. Since they have the capabilities, they should be doing more for the Underworld and eliminating more Devil Sect. Donghua Sacred Sect probably did this on purpose. They want the Devil Sects to go after the Dragon Sect. That's probably what they have in mind. As one of the 4 strongest Devil Sects, the remains were well regarded in diabolism. Donghua Sacred Sect is fanning the feud on purpose to induce the Devil Sects to deal with the Dragon Sect. It's going to be trouble now since the Dragon Sect has offended Donghua Sacred Sect and diabolism. Although offending Donghua Sacred Sect and diabolism will be problematic to the Dragon Sect, the Dragon Sect only has 50 disciples. Moreover, all of them are inborn experts. If they really wanted to hide, no one could find them. We can protect their kin for them. Brother Wang Xian has been really generous this time. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan conversed. They weren't going to do anything about the Dragon Sect. Even if they wished, they couldn't. Protecting the kin of Wang Xian could very well be the only thing they could do to help. This was also in gratitude to Wang Xian for gifting them the weapons. Wang Xian didn't know about Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan's thoughts. If he knew, he would probably laugh it off. At this moment, Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyu, Xiao Yu and the rest wouldn't require him to protect them at all. Disregarding their personal strength, Ajaya was still around. Who could possibly harm them in the current underworld? Even if Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi from diabolism were to attack them together, they wouldn't be able to harm the girls in the slightest. The only shameful thing was, his backyard was on fire. Wang Xian brought all the inborn level materials to the WAN forging table and WAN forging hammer. He took a deep breath. Refining equipment wasn't very different from ordinary smithing. The most obvious difference would be that the level of the materials differed substantially. Based on the introduction in the Fire God's Secret Book, one would just require the materials and forging technique to craft level 10 and level 11 equipment. They didn't involve the use of spirit arrays. Another difference between equipment refining and smithing was that refining higher level equipment required an art of forging. The forging of the edge of the blade, the forging of a truncheon and many others required the consideration of the conductivity of spiritual energy. For example, when crafting fire attribute inborn spiritual weapons, one had to consider the conductivity and enhancement of fire energy. Ordinary inborn spiritual weapons could enhance an ordinary martial artist's strength by 50%. Powerful inborn spiritual weapons could increase such enhancement to 80%. This greatly depended on one's skill in forging. An exceptionally important issue would be the conductivity of attribute energy. One had to go through thousands of rounds of practice to get it right. Otherwise, some weapons that were crafted would not be able to enhance one's strength. Instead, they would even hinder one's ordinary strength. Other than the art of forging, there is also the selection of materials and the special features of the weapon. Wang Xian pondered as he looked to the materials before him. Combining materials together could bring out even greater energy. The combination of materials was even tougher and required constant experimentation. Naturally, one could also just use a single type of material. Since I can't forge weapons that suit my current strength, I might as well forge some equipment for the Dragonians. Wang Xian thought to himself. He picked up the 2 inborn level metals, Devil Metal Steel and Tenacious Devil Stone, which he had gotten from the remains. Dragonians wouldn't require weapons as their dragon claws are even stronger than inborn spiritual weapons. I can discount the weapons then. As for defense, Even inborn-level armor would not be of much use after considering the toughness of their physical bodies. In that case, Wang Xian moved his arm and a mask appeared in his hand. This was the Devil Shadow mask he had obtained from the treasure cove of the remains. After wearing it, one could release a shadow. Although the shadow was illusory, devil attribute cultivators could shroud themselves in devilish aura. This would make the illusory shadow a little more realistic. This was a piece of secondary equipment and its effects would differ from person to person. However, it would be a rather good choice for the Dragonians. Wang Xian moved his hands over the Devil Shadow mask while memorizing every contour on it. He picked up a piece of devil metal steel and placed it on the WAN forging table. First, I have to heat the devil metal steel till it melts so I can change its appearance. As a level 13 spiritual forging equipment, the WAN forging table had a powerful enhancement. Mold creation. One could create a mold of the equipment to be crafted. After which, one would have to use the WAN forging hammer to hammer it into shape before inducing attribute conductivity. Within the WAN forging table, flames were imbued. 5 level 12 spiritual flame balls were embedded on it. If the WAN forging table wasn't for refining equipment, Wang Xian would have extracted the spiritual flame balls from it. Other than the flames of the WAN forging table, one could also use his own flames. The creation of a mold was simple. Melting the metal and refining it was tough. However, the toughest was the management of the conductivity of the equipment. Wang Xian created a mold on the WAN forging table. After which, he started smelting and refining the devil metal steel. Let's begin. Wang Xian took a deep breath. With just a thought, a small origin source flame appeared on his palm. His lips curved into a smile as he directed the origin source flame onto the WAN forging table. Ding! Refine equipment with the origin source flame. The notification of the system sounded and Wang Xian was beaming with excitement. Following which, the process of refining would start. As the devil metal steel was placed on the origin source flame, it softened rapidly. Wang Xian lifted the WAN forging hammer and hammered down. All the impurities within were instantly purged. Chapter 523, It's time to strike. Clang clang clang. Bam, bam, bam. The hammering sound kept coming as Wang Xian had not stopped hammering the sheet of devil metal steel according to the forging method in the art of equipment refining. The most amazing effect of using the origin source flame to refine equipment was the removal of impurities. Removal of impurities was a crucial step, as the impurities could affect the properties of conduction and therefore affect the power of the weapons. Secondly, the origin source flame had another strong effect, to soften any types of metals speedily. It could achieve the same temperature between the interior and exterior of the metal. For refining equipment, these effects were like great plugins. After Wang Xian placed the devil metal steel in the mold, he quickly hammered it. Soon, the shape of a mask was formed. After the semi-finished mask was done, he could proceed with conducting the attributes into the mask. When Wang Xian examined the conductivity of the semi-finished mask, he instantly found out that the conductivity was smooth without any blockage. It must be the origin source flame. The so-called conductivity has a simple way of testing. When the attribution passes through, it will straightaway appear at the end of the device. Just like electric conduction. Some have poor or good conductivity. This had to do with the impurities in the materials. The rest did not have much of an impact. It's easy to solve the issue of conductivity when using a single material to craft a weapon. But when it comes to using 2 or more materials, the conductivity is a key point. Wang Xian was elated. Using the origin source flame to refine equipment was such an easy task. Some of the blacksmiths would spend a long time just to make an inborn spiritual weapon. Take Zhon Lu, for example. It was said that he used 3 months just to make the ancient sword of Zhon Lu. Wang Xian took the WAN forging hammer, making some small adjustments to the mask. Phew, it's done. Devil Shadow mask, level 10. A black-colored mask isn't that nice at all. I should draw an abyss on it. The abyss mask looks cool and impressive. Wang Xian was wearing smiles as he looked at the mask. He put it on, and a shadow emerged beside him. The shadow was vague because he was not using any devil attributions. Once the devil attribution was activated, the shadow would turn realistic, and it could distract the opponent during combat. I'll make 50 of them. Wang Xian looked at the material, raised his WAN forging hammer, and began to speed up his crafting process. Level 13 Supreme Class weapons with origin source flame, a crazy flame. Making inborn spiritual weapons was a breeze to him. After the hammering sound continued for more than 2 hours, Wang Xian had completed 50 devil shadow masks. But he did not stop and went on to make other stuff. It was another piece of auxiliary equipment, a pair of devil wings. The speed of Dragonians was a flaw compared to their power and defense. If they had a pair of wings, it could significantly enhance their speed. On the other hand, wings and masks had a complementary effect. Since Wang Xian had the origin source flame, he thought of an idea, to make the devil shadow mask and devil wings into a suit. This way, they could complement each other, making it a simple spiritual weapon suit. The suit had one feature, and that was a complement. There were 2 types of complements. One was the spiritual complement, and one was the power complement. The spiritual complement was somewhat more advanced, while the power complement was simpler. But to Wang Xian, this was a piece of cake. However, making a pair of wings was undoubtedly much more difficult. The 3 materials required were tenacious devil stone, wind feather stone, and golden metal rock. With this 3-metal combination, it added a lot of difficulty to the crafting of the weapon. The tenacious devil stone was the primary material, while the other 2 materials were supplementary. Wang Xian had to bring out the characteristics of these materials, at the same time, not to affect the attribution conductivity. Bam, bam, bam. For the whole day, Wang Xian had not stopped his hammering and research. Making auxiliary weapons like the wings proved to be too difficult, as Wang Xian spent 8 hours to make one. The pair of devil wings spread out 1.5 meters on each side, 3 meters with both sides extended out. The entire wings were pure black with 5 frames supporting them in the middle. After adding the wind feather stone, the entire wings were as light as a feather. When they conducted with their devilish aura, they could soar effortlessly into the sky. That would increase their speed by another 50%. But before using the devil wings, one had to embed a spiritual stone at the position of the wind feather stone to activate its effect. Fortunately, the consumption was not massive, and it could be brushed off. Flap. Wang Xian spread out the wings with a crisp clear sound. After he tested them, the wings shrunk, and would not be affecting anything. Even spreading the wings during a battle would not have the slightest hindrance to movement. Wang Xian had a satisfied look on his face. After putting on the mask, it would be simply impressive if he had another black trench coat. Should I make one too? Wang Xian raised his eyebrow as he was intrigued. But after looking at the material, it was a pity that the materials he had were insufficient. He shook his head without any choice. After putting on the mask, 2 pieces of metal could buckle on the wings, linking the 2 items, creating the simple effect of a suit. Wang Xian moved around, and an illusory shadow emerged beside him. With his lips curled, he continued making his devil wings. Dragon King. When the moon was hanging in the night sky, Mo Yuan called out from outside. Come in. Wang Xian wiped the sweat on his forehead. Even he was a little tired after crafting weapons for the entire day. Dragon King, Omniscient Group is now under our control, said Mo Yuan to Wang Xian excitedly. Under our control? That fast? A trace of thrill flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. Yes, there were not many people at the higher management level. On top of that, they were ordinary people. Hence, it was easy for us to take control, and now we have gained access to the information in Omniscient Group. Mo Yuan nodded his head with force. Great. Wang Xian squinted his eyes. From now on, collect all the information on Donghua Sacred Sect. Since we won't rest unless one of us is dead, we should do something about it. As Wang Xian spoke, he drew his lips. Yes, Dragon King. We'll get Omniscient Group to send us all the information about Donghua Sacred Sect. Okay. Wang Xian nodded. Seeing the well-made inborn spiritual weapons, he smiled and took out his phone to rest on the chair. When he read the messages on the Underworld forum, he put up a faint smile. Everyone was discussing the Dragon King and Dragon Sect. The news of the remains being annihilated had shaken the entire underworld. After Donghua Sacred Sect released another statement, all the martial artists of the underworld were hoping the Dragon King and Dragon Sect could wipe out the rest of the Devil Sects. All of them were discussing the Dragon King and Dragon Sect's strength. Dragon Sect was known to be the next strongest sacred sect after Donghua Sacred Sect. At the same time, all of Diabolism had noticed the fact that Wang Xian had annihilated the remains. Some of them had posted threads on the Underworld forum, saying they would annihilate the Dragon King to avenge the remains. Chapter 524, Killing Experts from Donghua Sacred Sect, 1. I hope the Dragon Sect can annihilate more devil sects. In that case, annihilating the entire Diabolism will be an easy task together with the strength of the Orthodox sect. Even Donghua Sacred Sect wishes to see the Dragon Sect annihilate more devil sects. They probably have high regard for the strength of the Dragon Sect. Let's hope that the Dragon King can eradicate more devil sect. Wang Xian noticed there were more and more threads of this nature after Donghua Sacred Sect made its statement. Besides that, there were threads that cheered on the Dragon Sect and the Dragon King. They proudly boasted about the invincibility of the Dragon King and the Dragon Sect, the Dragon King who saw all evil as his enemies, for whom eliminating Diabolism entirely would be a walk in the park. There were all kinds of discussions. Subsequently, the Devil Sects made their statements to warn the Dragon Sect and Dragon King to stay low and that they would be taking revenge for the remains. The entire underworld was exceptionally lively. Looking through these comments, ruthlessness flashed in the eyes of Wang Xian. It seems like Donghua Sacred Sect is truly scheming. They hope to see me annihilate more devil sects. Hee. I have no feud with the devil sects, but I do have one against you. Wang Xian's expression turned cold as ice. Looking at the messages popping up on his phone, he stood up and continued refining spiritual equipment. The effects of this inborn spiritual equipment would be first tested on Donghua Sacred Sect. After working through an entire night, Wang Xian had crafted 50 sets of Devil Shadow Mask and Devil Wings. Seeing the inborn spiritual equipment that was glowing with a dull light, he revealed a satisfied smile. Dragon King. These are the pieces of information that Omniscient Group has gathered on Donghua Sacred Sect. Soon after, Mo Yuan carried a set of information to Wang Xian. Can we find an entry point? A few days have passed and it's time to give Donghua Sacred Sect a surprise. Wang Xian looked through the information as he asked Mo Yuan. Entry point. Mo Yuan sank into deep thought. Soon, he lifted his head and answered, Dragon King, we do have an opportunity tomorrow. What kind of opportunity? Nai Wushuang of the Donghua Sacred Sect and Emperor Qi of Diabolism have arranged to meet at Huashan for the supreme battle. 80% of the inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect will likely attend this major battle. However, there will be some who remain to guard an area. Donghua spiritual or mine, answered Mo Yuan. Donghua spiritual or mine? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow as he flipped through the information in his hands. Other than having Nai Wushuang, the reason why Donghua Sacred Sect could become the strongest sacred sect in the underworld was because of the spiritual or mine. A spiritual or mine that one could excavate spiritual stones. Based on the information on record, Donghua Sacred Sect could excavate 40 to 50,000 spiritual stones from the spiritual or mine annually. 40 to 50,000 spiritual stones was an insane amount. Because of the existence of the spiritual or mine, the number of inborn experts in Donghua Sacred Sect easily triumphed in the underworld. Donghua spiritual or mine is just 50 kilometers away from the sacred grounds of Donghua Sacred Sect. If we ambush them tomorrow, we can easily kill all the experts that remain to guard to spiritual or mine. Mo Yuan answered confidently. 50 kilometers. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. Yeah. 50 kilometers. A Dan Realm expert will be leading the guards with at least a dozen odd inborn experts. It's an incredibly important location for Donghua Sacred Sect. Mo Yuan nodded his head. In that case, we don't have to wait to attack them until they are away. The people in the underworld would believe that we are afraid of Donghua Sacred Sect. Since we are going to attack, we shall do it tonight. A beam of ruthlessness gleamed in Wang Xian's eyes as he spoke. Tonight? Mo Yuan pondered for a moment before asking, Dragon King, would you want to go with us? Naturally. Nai Wushuang from Donghua Sacred Sect will likely have reached the budding realm. If he is there, you guys wouldn't be a match. Wang Xian nodded his head before continuing. Inform all disciples of the Dragon Sect to head towards Donghua Spiritual or Mine. The battle has begun. The battle has begun. Wang Xian didn't have the intention to target with Donghua Sacred Sect so quickly. However, he wanted to give Donghua Sacred Sect a lesson after seeing their statements on the underworld. Otherwise, Donghua Sacred Sect would assume that his Dragon Sect was just a joke. Since they had decided to not rest till a side had perished, so be it. Wang Xian smirked coldly. Distribute these devil shadow masks and devil wings to all the Dragonians and test out the strength. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Yuan nodded his head. Soon, the disciples of the Dragon Sect arrived one after another. Let's go. The group of Dragonians kept the devil shadow masks and devil wings as they followed behind Wang Xian towards Donghua Sacred Sect. They didn't take any form of transportation vehicles. Dragon Sect was currently in an opposing stand to Donghua Sacred Sect. There was no way Donghua Sacred Sect would not guard against the Dragon Sect. Moreover, Donghua Sacred Sect definitely had its own intelligence channels. If he had headed towards Donghua Sacred Sect with so many people, they would definitely be alerted. As such, Wang Xian and the group of Dragonians chose to fly there directly. In a deserted area, a group of people were in black clothes and wore black hideous-looking masks. Behind them, they had pairs of wings that spanned over 3 meters. The group of 50-odd people flew rapidly across the sky. They were just like a flash of shadows as they moved ahead at a tremendous speed. Inborn-level wings can fully enable an inborn expert to fly rapidly across the sky. In fact, they are even faster than airplanes. Wang Xian mumbled as he looked ahead of him. At this very moment, the higher management of Donghua Sacred Sect was gathered in a hall in Donghua Sacred Sect. No one was in the master's seat. Nai Wuya and several other Dan Realm experts were seated closer to the front. Other than the 3 Dan Realm experts that had shown themselves during the alliance of the Orthodox sects, there were 2 other old men by their side with faint auras emitting from them. Tomorrow will be the major battle between our sect leader and Emperor Qi. At that time, Old Xiong will guard the sect while Old Ju will guard the spiritual or mine. As for the rest, we will follow the sect leader. Nai Wuya instructed the other old men around him. I really want to witness the battle of the ages of the underworld and see how insanely strong our sect leader is currently, an old man commented. Old Ju, we can't leave the spiritual or mine unguarded. Nai Wuya said to the old man with a smile. It doesn't matter if it is guarded or not. Who dares to have ulterior motives on Donghua Sacred Sect? The old man snorted confidently while clearly looking displeased. Hee hee. Nai Wuya chuckled. That Dragon King from the Dragon Sect has the guts to stand against us. How brazen. The Dragon King of the Dragon Sect is indeed arrogant and fearless. After offending us, they went to annihilate the remains. Even the devil sects are looking to kill the Dragon King to take revenge for the remains. That Dragon King is indeed strong, but we will definitely be able to kill him if we fight him together. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if the 5 of us work together. Although the Dragon King is arrogant, he isn't weak at all. Nonetheless, he will likely not live long after offending us and the devil sects. He will either be killed by us or by the devil sect. Nai Wuya chuckled. We still can't drop our guard right now. If the Dragon King were to ambush us when we leave, it would be problematic. Hee hee. We have an ancient defensive spirit array over the spiritual or mine that can even trap any Dan Realm experts. If he's here, we will just trap him here. The old man who was addressed as Old Jew smirked and continued, a Dragon King isn't a cause for concern yet. If he dares to come, I'll turn him into a trapped beast. He's indeed not a cause of concern. However, the devil sects are running amok. If it were peacetime, the Dragon Sect would have been annihilated. There's no way he could be arrogant like now. TSK. Nai Wuya snorted and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Ha ha. Leave the spiritual or mine to me and don't worry about it. I'll just kill anyone who comes, Old Jew said while brimming with killing intent. Chapter 525, Killing Experts from Donghua Sacred Sect, 2. Donghua spiritual or mine was situated in the Chilu mountain range. Spiritual energy had diminished during the ending of the Age of Dharma, leaving fewer and fewer spiritual or mine in the world. Within the territory of China, the only spiritual or mine was guarded by Donghua Sacred Sect. And not many ancestral sects knew of the exact location of Donghua spiritual or mine as it was top secret. As omniscient group and the enemy of Donghua Sacred Sect, Diabolism knew the location of Donghua spiritual or mine very well. The mechanical sound that had been blasted for the entire day on Donghua spiritual or mine had finally ended at night. Large pieces of heavy machinery were placed in the spiritual or mine. Surrounding Donghua spiritual or mine were woods towering at a dozen meters high just to conceal its location. This place was totally secluded even though houses were built by the side of the spiritual or mine. The interior of the houses was simple but luxurious. Inborn experts walked out of the houses around the mine and did their routine checks. All clear, a middle-aged man said with a smile on his face. Staying put at this isolated spiritual or mine really bores me to death. We won't even get to view the battle between sect leader and Emperor Qi from Diabolism. Holding a Vajra in his hand, a bald, middle-aged man not far away shook his head and remarked plainly, "During normal times, it's fine to have lesser people over here. But it's the critical period now, and this place needs to be heavily guarded. Isn't Supreme Old Jew staying here every day?" An elder smiled to the bald man as he spoke. "Mph, it's all because of damn Diabolism and Dragon Sect. Otherwise, we won't have to keep watch over here every day." The bald, middle-aged man swung the Vajra in his hand. "If I see them, I'll send them to hell. Especially that Dragon King from Dragon Sect. Goddamn, the Dragon King of Dragon Sect is not our concern. When we settle Diabolism, the Dragon Sect will be easily settled as well." The old man replied without any emotion. "But we should not belittle them. After all, they annihilated the remains. Hence, their strength must be strong. I wonder how a 20-year-old lad possesses such daunting strength. Do you guys think he chanced upon something great? That's for sure. The rise of the Dragon King was too fast and furious. He must have inherited some powerful ancient sect's legacy. After we settle Diabolism, the first thing that Donghua Sacred Sect will do is get rid of Dragon Sect. If we can take over his legacy, it will be another boost to Donghua Sacred Sect. Fancy defeating Hai Jiao at age 20. What a scary legacy he has. We cannot let him develop further." All the inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect were exchanging conversations. The bald, middle-aged man with the Vajra suddenly looked around. "If I were the Dragon King, I would come here. Then we could trap the beast and slay the dragon. If Dragon Sect found out about this place, they might really come over. But they should be sneaking in for an attack tomorrow. I dare him to come today since all the experts of Donghua Sacred Sect can rush over here in 10 minutes. Okay, let's get some rest now." The old man gestured a dismissive wave at the group of people and flitted to one of the rooms. The bald, middle-aged man shook his head slightly as he placed the Vajra on his shoulder and headed to the room where he was staying. Ha! At this moment, his body was suddenly stifled as he narrowed his eyes and peered somewhere in front of him. A trace of horror and surprise flashed across his eyes. "Someone is flying towards us." The bald, middle-aged man sounded out softly as he clenched his Vajra tightly while he alerted his companions around him. Ha! The inborn experts who had just reached the porches of their houses were stunned for a moment and looked ahead. Dong dong dong. The sound of a bell was clearly heard within a radius of a few kilometers around Donghua spiritual or mine. "Someone is here." The disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect walked out from the houses, observing the surroundings with doubts. Why would anyone come at this time? Within a room in the most central house, Supreme Old Jew of Donghua Sacred Sect opened his eyes. With a swift move, he appeared outside of the house instantly. 15 inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect were standing in the air while hundreds of level 8 and level 9 disciples were standing below with their eyes fixed ahead. Old Ju made a quick move and took the forefront position. He squinted his eyes slightly and peered ahead. Over there were 50 black figures with scary masks and pairs of black devil wings behind them. They were hovering towards them, looking menacing. 50. They have 50 men. The bald, middle-aged man glared ahead with cold eyes and remarked in an icy tone. 50 men? The rest of them gazed suspiciously ahead. 50 men? The Dragon Sect. They have devilish attributes. On top of that, they have 50 men. It's the Dragon Sect, no doubt. They are barging into Donghua spiritual or mine. Prepare to fight. Cold bellows were heard from everyone, while old Ju fixed his gaze on the figure who was in the middle. He was wearing the same mask and had a similar pair of wings, but old Ju could still tell that it was the figure of a young man. At the same time, he could sense a horrifying aura coming from that young man. Dragon King of Dragon Sect, what a surprise. I didn't expect that you would choose this time to break into our Donghua spiritual or mine. There was a flash of cold radiance in old Ju's eyes. Contact the experts from the ancestral sect. Today, we'll hold everyone from Dragon Sect over here. This is also a good sign for the battle of the sect leader tomorrow. Old Ju revealed a faint smile as he instructed the disciple beside him. Yes. A disciple nodded his head immediately as he delivered the message instantaneously to Donghua Sacred Sect. A large number of experts of Donghua Sacred Sect would arrive 10 minutes later. They are here to receive us. Seeing a dozen people standing in front in the air, coldness swept across Wang Xian's eyes. Just with 10 odd inborn experts. How would they dare to receive us here? It looks like they have some hidden cards. Wang Xian squinted his eyes a little as he scanned around him with red-blue radiance in his eyes. Ha! A special layer of energy appeared within his vision. He had seen this when he was at Huashan. Obviously, this bout of energy was weaker by 100 times as compared to Huashan. The hidden energy encompassed an area of 5 kilometers. Donghua Sacred Sect is just 50 kilometers away from here. Their reinforcements will be able to reach here in 10 minutes. We must kill them all by then. Wang Xian commanded the surrounding Dragonians in a dull voice. Yes, Dragon King. Wang Xian jerked his devil wings behind him, and so did the 49 Dragonians behind him, emanating bouts of formidable aura. The intense killing aura surged from their bodies while devil clouds were coalescing in the sky, as if devils were emerging from the abyss. It was petrifying and domineering. Chapter 526, Trapped Beasts. Killing the Dragon? What terrifying auras. Is this the full strength of the Dragon Sect? So powerful. Devil clouds are even coalescing over the sky. It's no surprise they could annihilate the remains. The Dragon Sect is indeed not simple. When the terrifying cloud of aura moved rapidly towards them with the devil clouds above them, the crowd of Donghua Sacred Sect was astonished. This strength could easily annihilate all of us. The bald middle-aged man felt a chill run down his spine when he saw the Dragon Sect within 1,000 meters of them. They are indeed strong and aren't something we can withstand. It's no surprise that Nai Wuya and the other 3 weren't confident in keeping them behind on the day of the alliance of the Orthodox sect. Old Ju looked plainly at the approaching experts of the Dragon Sect. When he saw them stopping before him, he revealed a chilling smirk and shouted, "How arrogant of the Dragon Sect to barge into our Donghua spiritual or mine at this moment." Wang Xian and the Dragonians stopped in the air 1,000 meters away from them. They extended their wings and resembled terrifying devils from hell. It doesn't matter the time, nor do we need to resort to ambushing to kill the people from the Donghua Sacred Sect. We are killing you guys here to send out a warning. Moreover, this is just the beginning. Wang Xian looked at the disciples of the Donghua Sacred Sect before him and spoke plainly. Arrogant and presumptuous. Old Ju stared emotionlessly at Wang Xian as he remarked, "You must be the Dragon King. Since you dare to be here today, you can rest here forever. This is an auspicious land after all. All right, we have no time to chat with you here. In 9 minutes, the reinforcements of the Donghua Sacred Sect will be here." Wang Xian looked across the disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect as he shouted, "Killing you guys will be a reminder to the Donghua Sacred Sect that our dragon sect isn't just kidding when we say we won't rest till one party perish. Go." Wang Xian instructed the Dragonians behind him. "Kill all the Dragonians behind," Wang Xian shouted. With immense killing intent overflowing, they charged towards Donghua Sacred Sect. TSK. Seeing the disciples of the dragon sect charging towards him, old Ju turned cold as ice. The inborn experts behind him also gave cold grins. Who would have expected the dragon sect to be made up of a bunch of fools? Perhaps they are in over their heads after annihilating the remains. When the inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect witnessed what had transpired, they weren't worried at all. Instead, they were grinning with contempt. Annihilating a foolish sect with 5,000 spiritual stones. What a bad deal. Old Ju looked emotionlessly at the group of dragon sect's disciples charging ahead. He moved his arm and shouted, "Move back! Move back!" The group of inborn experts shouted as they retreated rapidly. Screech, screech, screech. The moment they retreated, the space within a span of 5 kilometers seemed to be distorting. An invisible shield fell from the sky suddenly and shrouded the entire region. The group of Dragonians that had charged ahead was surprised. Attack! Mo Yuan's expression turned solemn as his palm underwent a terrifying transformation. A terrifying dragon claw appeared. Behind him, the Dragonians' palms also underwent terrifying changes. Bam! 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 Dragon claws attacked the invisible shield before them and terrifying destructive force fell upon it. Unmovable. Unshakable. There were no ripples or any signs of movement when the attacks of the Dragonians fell on it. This greatly shocked the Dragonians. The disciples of the Dragonians are really strong. When an expert from Donghua Sacred Sect saw the attacks from the Dragonians, fear flashed in his eyes as he commented solemnly. "So what? They are still trapped beasts now," a middle-aged man standing by the side said with a faint smile. "That's true." The old man grinned and looked at the disciples of the dragon sect with contempt. He commented, "They are strong but aren't very intelligent." Haha, that's right. They are nothing compared to the scheming followers of Diabolism. If Diabolism had the same intelligence level as them, it would be great for us. Come, shall we celebrate? Haha. When the disciples of the Donghua Sacred Sect saw the dragon sect being trapped within the spirit array, they smiled confidently. They stood outside the shield and constantly ridiculed them. What's this? A spirit array of the legends? Looking at the transparent shield before him, Mo Yuan looked bitter. He looked across and shouted, "Attack! Kill!" The Dragonians flapped their wings rapidly and charged towards the spirit array shield. Rumble. Terrifying forces that could even kill an ordinary inborn expert fell on the spirit array shield, causing dull clashing sounds. However, the shield wasn't moved. There wasn't even any sign of movement. Hee. They must be dreaming to think they can destroy the spirit array. Strong contempt gleamed in the eyes of old Ju as he looked at the Dragonians attacking the shield. He felt ridiculed by the arrogance and conceit of the dragon sect. Just today, he had heard about Nai Wuya and the rest being a little surprised by the Dragon King and being a little wary of the dragon sect. Now, it would seem like they were nothing. When the experts of our Donghua Sacred Sect are here, it will also be the time they will be killed. An inborn expert chuckled. Supreme Elder, the people of the dragon sect are so presumptuous to announce they won't rest till one side perishes. Can I broadcast what's happening here to the underworld so the rest will know the consequences of going against us? That's a good idea. Let the whole underworld know how the foolish dragon sect has been annihilated by us. Haha, a disciple shouted excitedly. Old Ju, who was standing in the middle, smiled faintly and nodded his head. Hee. When that middle-aged man saw the approval given by the Supreme Elder, he was beaming with excitement. He took out his phone, took a few pictures and entered the underworld website. The insignificant dragon sect is just a pile of trash. They aren't qualified to stand toe-to-toe with us. Today, we will be killing them off. They are now trapped beasts waiting to be slaughtered. In the future, there will be no dragon sect or dragon king. The middle-aged man grinned as he uploaded the pictures he had taken to the Underworld website and started the thread. He could already foresee the forces and martial artists of the Underworld being shocked by the news. Just a day ago, the Dragon Sect had annihilated the remains. This had shocked the entire Underworld as everyone was astonished by the strength of the Dragon Sect. And today, the Dragon Sect would be annihilated by their Donghua sacred sect. From here onwards, the status of their Donghua sacred sect would be unshakable and no one would dare to challenge them. The outcome of the Dragon Sect would be a great example of those who dared to offend Donghua sacred sect. They are now just trapped beast. In the future, there will be no arrogant Dragon Sect or Dragon King. Old Jew smiled with contempt at the Dragonians who were still attacking the Spirit Array. Chapter 527, 1 minute. What? Trap the beast and slay the dragon? What just happened? Are the guys from the Dragon Sect trapped by those from the Donghua sacred sect? The post was up for barely a minute, and it was the spotlight of the Underworld immediately. Upon clicking the post, the various martial artists of the Underworld were shocked to see a photo of a group of masked Dragonians. Are those people wearing masks with black wings disciples from the Dragon Sect? Is the Dragon King among them? Who posted this? Is this from the Donghua sacred sect? This is not real, is it? From the photo, it looks like the guys from the Dragon Sect have been trapped. Does this mean that the Donghua sacred sect has raised an attack on the Dragon Sect? No way. The Dragon Sect destroyed the remains only yesterday, much to the delight of everyone. But today, they landed themselves in the hands of the Donghua sacred sect. This spells total annihilation for the Dragon Sect. The 50 people in the photo do look like they are from the Dragon Sect. By putting this information out, the disciples from the Donghua sacred sect most certainly want the Dragon Sect dead. From the background in the photo, it seems like it was taken in the mountains. Could it be that the Dragon Sect had secretly planned for a sneak attack on the Donghua sacred sect, but was completely wiped out by them instead? It does seem possible for the Dragon Sect to launch a sneak attack on Donghua sacred sect. Going by the character of the Dragon King, he had already intended to fight the Donghua sacred sect till the end. Thus he'll not let them off easily. But by the looks of things, it looks like they were trapped by the Donghua sacred sect. The Dragon King is too self-conceited. Maybe with the annihilation of the remains yesterday, he felt confident enough to take on the Donghua sacred sect. But doing that is just an act of courting death. Gone. The Dragon Sect is completely gone now. They chose to take on the Donghua sacred sect while they are still leagues below their level. Countless martial artists of the Underworld expressed their comments under the post. Nobody expected that this would have happened. Yesterday, the Dragon Sect destroyed the remains. Today, they are on the way to being destroyed by the Donghua sacred sect. The turn of events left the martial artists of the Underworld filled with emotions. The Dragon King is too self-conceited. That is the Donghua sacred sect we are talking about. Their presence is a sign of invincibility in the Underworld. Provoking them will lead to the downfall of the Dragon Sect for sure. I knew that the Dragon Sect and Dragon King would not live long, not with their arrogance. It makes total sense that they get wiped out. One of the martial artists commented under the post. The Dragon Sect had lived their worth. By destroying the remains, they got rid of one of the Underworld's greatest nemeses. But the Dragon Sect and the Dragon King were threats themselves. This is good riddance. Support the Donghua sacred sect. The news put a smile on the faces of some martial artists, who were in support of the decimation of the Dragon Sect. Although some other sacred sects were filled with mixed emotions when they first saw the post, their faces lit up with smiles eventually. To them, it was certainly a good thing that the Dragon Sect was gone. They did not want such a strong yet unbridled force to remain in the Underworld. While the Underworld was shocked by the content of the post, Wang Xian was found standing in the center of a spirit array. Faced with the smug looks of the gang of Donghua sacred sect disciples, he was seen beaming with a smile. Trap the beast and slay the dragon? You will have to be able to trap the dragon first. Wang Xian said with a slight sneer. He looked up and slowly raised his right arm. In a split second, the entire arm underwent a horrific change. The entire arm emitted a golden glow, turning gold in color, and then transforming into a golden dragon claw. The partial dragonification replaced his arm with a solid dragon claw. Heh, trying to break our spirit array? Stop your wishful thinking. This is one of the only 2 legendary spirit arrays that our Donghua sacred sect practices. It's impossible for any Dan realm experts to break this array. Old Ju saw the transformation on Wang Xian's arm and had a look of contempt across his face. Really? Your lives are about to end in just 1 more minute, Wang Xian said with a faint grin on his face as he fixed his eyes on the supreme elder of Donghua sacred sect. Haha, let me tell you this. You all have only 5 more minutes to live. After the 5 minutes are up, our experts from the Donghua sacred sect will annihilate your entire dragon sect. Old Ju laughed in the direction of Wang Xian. The group of inborn experts behind Old Ju slowly raised their heads with their arms folded. Dragon King, give us your best shot. We will cheer for you from here. Haha. They guffawed with sneers. Oh, really? Wang Xian chuckled at the sight of their laughter. He moved his body and launched an attack straight ahead. With a leap, he lunged forward with an attack, clenching his dragon claw tightly. Dead ahead, the gang of Donghua sacred sect disciples looked on, still with smiles on their faces. The power of the spirit array was tested personally by their sect leader. No Dan expert could ever think of breaking it. They showed no signs of anxiousness, and their faces remained calm. Bam! When the dragon claw hit the spirit array, the array showed no signs of wavering. Haha, what a futile attempt at using your power. The bald, middle-aged expert witnessed the scene and laughed out arrogantly. Heh. Wang Xian looked up and grinned, his eyes sweeping across the entire gang. Kill. Kill. As soon as he finished muttering the word, the spirit array suddenly showed signs of cracking as if a piece of glass was swiftly breaking apart. What? This? The cracks of the spirit array shocked the entire Donghua sacred sect with smiles on their faces froze in an instant. What's this? Old Ju's eyes shrunk uncontrollably. He astonishingly realized that the strike from the Dragon King moments ago had penetrated the spirit array. The strike penetrating the spirit array happened all too quickly, as if the force had caused time to freeze momentarily before the cracks became visible. Kill. The group of Dragonians alongside Mo Yuan showed an icy glance in their eyes. They wore the abyss masks, and the wings on their backs began to flap as they attacked the Donghua sacred sect disciples at a frightful speed. Their arms were now slightly quivering as they looked at their approaching enemies with horror. No, he is capable of bursting an attack from the budding realm. How can he be that strong? Old Ju's eyes twitched at the sight of the attacking group of experts from the Dragon sect. Seeing the Dragon King had his eyes fixated on him, he was petrified. Run. Right now. In a flash, Old Ju made the decision to retreat. They were no match for the Dragon sect, not with their ability. Without their spirit array, they had completely lost their right to battle. Run for your life. Trembling in fear, the surrounding group of inborn experts from the Donghua sacred sect tried to escape when the Dragonians approached them with murderous looks on their faces. 5 more minutes. Just hang on for another 5 minutes and the reinforcements from the ancestral sect will be here. We will be able to survive by then, the bald, middle-aged expert said with his eyes twitching furiously. Gritting his teeth, he tried to run away. Do you really think you can escape? Mo Yuan said with a cold smile on his face, glaring at the Donghua sacred sect experts. The devil wings on the backs of the masked Dragonians fluttered violently. All of you from the Donghua sacred sect must die. There is no escape for any of you. Bam! The devil wings moved with excitement, exuding a black luster from the wings. The spiritual stone mounted on their devil wings channeled the powers of the wind featherstone, making them feel as light as feathers. With a gentle charge, they were able to increase their speed instantaneously by more than 50%. Chapter 528. You are a demon. When the Dragonians triggered the effects of the devil wings, all the experts from Donghua sacred sect could feel a terrifying aura approaching them from behind. Shit. Their wings can greatly increase their speed. Sensing the fast approaching Dragonian behind him, the bald middle-aged man was flabbergasted. He gritted his teeth, held the Vajra tightly in his hand and turned around forcefully. Among the inborn experts, I have not encountered anyone who is a match for me in Donghua sacred sect. I can still pull one of you to the grave with me. The bald middle-aged man grimaced in fear. The Vajra glowed dazzlingly as he swung down heavily towards a Dragonian. Wang. What? Just as the Vajra was about to land on the Dragonian, an identical Dragonian appeared beside him. This took the bald middle-aged man by surprise as his actions slowed. TSK. A cold snort resounded as the dragon claw of the Dragonian attacked towards the bald middle-aged man. The bald middle-aged man was astonished as he shifted the Vajra across his body. Bam! A Dragonian and an illusory shadow attacked the bald middle-aged man with identical movements, taking the bald middle-aged man by complete surprise. Bam! As the dragon claw swept across the shoulder of the bald middle-aged man, a long wound was torn open instantly. The bald middle-aged man was shocked. At this moment, the attack from the Dragonian fell once again. One strike came after another with immense force. What was most terrifying was still the speed. Within close proximity, the Dragonian could shift his attack easily. Terrifying attacks together with the distractions of the devil shadow left the bald middle-aged man with no strength to retaliate. Ah! In the end, the bald middle-aged man let out a desperate cry. Ah! At this moment, incessant cries filled the sky. All the Dragonians had the strength to challenge those who were stronger than them. Now that they had the inborn level devil shadow masks and devil wings as enhancements, the experts from Donghua sacred sect wouldn't be able to stand against them. As for those disciples who had not reached the inborn realm, they were easily slaughtered. All they saw was a devil shadow dashing toward them. The next moment, they would feel vitality quickly leaving their bodies. You! How dare you slaughter the disciples from our Donghua sacred sect? At this moment, old Ju, who had been standing in the middle, locked down by Wang Xian, had noticed the disciples around him being easily killed. He glowered at Wang Xian with blood-red eyes as he growled. So what if we did? Since your Donghua sacred sect dared to offend the dragon sect, you must have had the understanding that you guys would be killed by us. Wang Xian stared coldly at old Ju. When he finished his words, he also struck. In that case, I'll see how strong the Dragon King really is. Seeing Wang Xian charging towards him, old Ju lifted his right hand and a long sword appeared in it. The dullish yellow long sword was incomparably fearsome as old Ju swung it towards Wang Xian. Rumble. Terrifying cracks extended as the tough floor split rapidly. The edge of the sword went for Wang Xian directly. Wang Xian waved his arm as the cracks extending towards him were dispersed. He smirked and made an instantaneous shift towards old Ju. Today, you have to die too. When old Ju heard Wang Xian, his heart skipped a beat. He clenched onto the long sword in his hand tightly, gritted his teeth and roared, "There are only 4 minutes left. You can kill me. TSK. As I said, it won't take more than a minute." Wang Xian squinted his eyes as he swung his dragon claws towards old Ju. "Although I'm not a match for you, I'll still be able to escape if I want to." Hearing Wang Xian, old Ju was exceptionally gloomy. He moved and fled immediately. Rumble. However, a huge 2-meter wall rose from the ground behind him all of a sudden. In just an instant, his escape route was sealed. This greatly surprised him. Escape? That's not an option. Wang Xian smiled faintly as his golden claws tore across. "How can this be? Aren't you a fire attribute cultivator? Why are you using earth and metal attribute?" Seeing Wang Xian's attack, old Ju was overwhelmed with fear. He instantly tried to dodge to the side. However, the momentary blockage by the stone wall had exhausted all the advantage he had for escaping. The dragon claw grabbed towards old Ju's head. Old Ju was prepared for it. He instantly swung the long sword in his hand ruthlessly towards the dragon claw. Boom! Shockwaves from the terrifying clash reverberated and old Ju pivoted off the terrifying strength to escape. Swish, swish, swish. However, the trees before him started growing and wrapping towards his body. This frightened old Ju as he swung his long swords towards the surrounding trees. While he was distracted from chopping the trees, a terrifying dragon claw penetrated his body. You are. You are a demon. Feeling his body being pierced through, old Ju's eyes were filled with desperation. He turned around and looked fearfully at Wang Xian. The source of the fear came from the bottom of his heart. He had not experienced this, even from his sect leader. Creepy attacks and the ability to use multiple attributes. He wasn't a human. He was a demon. Nope. I'm a divine dragon. When Wang Xian's final 5 words reached him, his vision was starting to fade. Bam! A Dan Realm expert and the supreme elder of Donghua Sacred Sect had fallen to the ground. At this moment, Mo Yuan reported, Dragon King, all the disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect have been killed without exception. Wang Xian nodded his head. 50 Dragonians against 15 inborn experts. That should have been complete domination. In a one-on-one situation, a Dragonian would still be able to kill an inborn expert within a minute. The several times difference in strength would only make it quicker. The reinforcements of the Donghua Sacred Sect will probably be here in 4 minutes. Wang Xian looked around him. He had no intentions of looking for spiritual stones. He turned to Mo Yuan and said plainly, didn't Donghua Sacred Sect upload this incident on the Underworld website? In that case, let's add in the outcome for them. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Yuan chuckled. He took a phone from one of the disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect, looked across with contempt and took several photos. After which, he entered the Underworld website and saw the hottest thread started by that disciple of Donghua Sacred Sect. Trapped beast. Slaughtering the dragons. Our Dragon King has made it clear that it won't stop till one party perishes. Today's just the beginning. With roughly 20 words and no further elaborations, Mo Yuan appended a few additional pictures. Those were pictures of the corpses of disciples, inborn experts and the supreme elder of Donghua Sacred Sect. After posting the comment, Mo Yuan nodded his head at Wang Xian. Let's go. I'll leave this surprise for Donghua Sacred Sect. Wang Xian commented plainly. Taking flight, they headed back towards Rivertown. Haha. Who would have expected the foolish dragon sect would dare to barge into the spiritual or mine today? Even the heavens are helping us. Soon after Wang Xian left with the Dragonians, a peal of unruly laughter reverberated from afar. Chapter 529, Rather offend the King of Hades than the Dragon King. With much excitement, Nai Wuya rushed over from the Donghua Sacred Sect along with its group of top experts. 50 experts from the Dragon Sect had been trapped by the Spirit Array while on their way to the Donghua Spiritual Ore Mine. Nai Wuya and the gang got rather worked up when they received the news. The Dragon Sect and Dragon King were asking for it. To be stuck within the Spirit Array of the Donghua Spiritual Ore spelled doom for the entire Dragon Sect, as it would then make them an easy kill. Yet, in spite of their disregard on the surface, they were still met with a tinge of trepidation when it came to the Dragon Sect. The Dragon King had defeated the Lord of Sea Serpent Island, and his Dragon Sect proceeded to wipe the remains out. All of which had displayed the prowess of the Dragon Sect. And while they were also the formidable Donghua Sacred Sect, they did not have the prowess to annihilate the Dragon Sect with the mere deployment of a few members. This was especially so given the number of inborn experts within the Dragon Sect, 50 to be exact. The figure was enough to cause massive trouble for the Donghua Sacred Sect. But even this trouble would pass now that the Dragon Sect had been trapped in the Spirit Array. Today spells a good omen. Our sect leader will definitely be able to slay Emperor Qi of Diabolism tomorrow, an elder said to Nai Wuya with a wide smile across his face. Given the prowess of the sect leader, killing Emperor Qi is going to be a piece of cake. Nai Wuya responded while his lips arched upwards. We've arrived at the mine ore. Come on, let's wipe out the Dragon Sect. Nai Wuya exclaimed as he looked ahead. Picking up speed, he walked on with overflowing joy. Beside him were 3 supreme elders from the Donghua Sacred Sect, and more than 100 of their inborn experts followed behind. For the sake of annihilating the Dragon Sect, all the top-notch experts within Donghua Sacred Sect had been deployed. Old Jew, we're here. From a distance of more than 1,000 meters away came Nai Wuya's bellowing laughter as he shouted ahead. Hey! The figures did not respond to Nai Wuya's call as the group approached at lightning speed. This made Nai Wuya frown in bewilderment before his confusion was overtaken by an ominous premonition. There's bloodthirst. Suddenly, one of the elders yelped with locked brows. Oh no, there are dead bodies ahead, he shouted after looking ahead. What? Don't tell me, the crowd muttered upon sensing a bad omen. Everyone began to accelerate, and hastened over to the mine ore. From a distance of about 1,000 meters away, their faces darkened instantly upon the sight up front. In fact, their faces were beyond gloomy. They shuddered at the numerous dead bodies of their once acquaintance. Old Ju, an elder, shrieked with bloodshot eyes as he eyed the area beneath a nearby tree. With one leap, he arrived right beside the dead body and cried out. What? To think even the Supreme Elder is... The inborn experts gasped in shock. They met their counterparts with eyes full of trepidation. A Supreme Elder had been killed along with 15 inborn experts. The Donghua sacred sect had never incurred such losses in the past 50 years. The spirit array has been compromised. To think, the spirit array has been compromised, an elder screeched with a burdened expression as he glanced in the direction of the spirit array. To think the spirit array has been breached. And all it took was 10 minutes, a mere 10 minutes, a voice gasped. It's a form of antagonizing. It's blatant what the dragon sect is doing now, antagonizing us. Of all days, they chose to do so today in order to spite us explicitly. An inborn expert let out a deep growl. Even the 100-odd experts from the Donghua sacred sect looked on with ghastly expressions. This was beyond antagonizing, this was a tight slap to the face. What shocked them the most was the fact that even their supreme elder, an unparalleled expert of the Dan realm, had been killed as well. Dan realm experts were few and far between. Needless to say, killing them was even more unimaginable. Nai Wuya took in one deep breath. With bloodshot eyes, he let out a growl to the skies. We, Donghua sacred sect, are at extreme odds with you, Dragon King and Dragon Sec. As all experts from the Donghua sacred sect arrived at the Donghua spiritual ore mine, the online thread which Mo Yuan had posted went viral all over the Underworld forum. This came 5 minutes after the thread posted by disciples of the Donghua sacred sect had caused a wave-like sensation amongst all the martial artists. While they were still busy discussing the annihilation of the dragon sect, the emergence of a new post brought a twist to the outcome. At the sight of the numerous dead bodies of the Donghua sacred sect members, everyone who saw the post gasped in utter shock. This outfit is the attire of the Donghua attendants. The attendants of the Donghua sacred sect are all inborn experts. To think they've been slain. So many to add. There's too many, more than a dozen. Those are disciples of the Donghua sacred sect. More than 100 of them have been killed. This. The photo of this elder has been posted individually. Perhaps this elder is more esteemed than the rest. Goodness. Wasn't it just earlier when the Donghua sacred sect was about to annihilate the dragon sect? Just what exactly happened? Goodness, just what exactly happened? Earlier on, the Donghua sacred sect was still talking about wiping out the dragon sect. How is it that more than a dozen inborn experts from the Donghua sacred sect have since been killed within split second? The martial artists gagged in shock and fear as they scrolled through the various photos. It seems, then, that there had been a major twist to the outcome. The Donghua sacred sect had not annihilated the dragon sect. Instead, the dragon sect had killed 100-odd disciples of Donghua sacred sect, along with more than a dozen of its inborn experts. Shocking, simply shocking. Yet, just as everyone was buzzing away in a heated discussion, one of them recognized the elder who had been accorded with an individual photo. This was the supreme elder of the Donghua sacred sect. An awe-inspiring existence of the Dan realm, an unparalleled expert of his time. Everyone gasped upon the confirmation of the news. To think that the supreme elder of the Donghua sacred sect had been killed. While everyone eventually came to gradual terms with the news, a post made by an individual sent the entire underworld into a whirl of deep thought and shock. Within the entire underworld, the existence of an unparalleled expert is considered top-notch, while their demise is even rarer. To the point where there hasn't even been one within the past decade and beyond. Yet, just recently, these unparalleled experts have fallen one by one. These include Ancestor Qiao of the Qiao clan, 2 Supreme Elders from the Medical Saint sect, the Supreme Elder of the Shengling sect, Lord Ossian of the Remains, as well as the Supreme Elder of the Donghua Sacred sect. Of these 6 unparalleled experts, 5 have died at the hands of the Dragon King of the Dragon sect. As everyone went through the statistics, they came to a sudden realization which sent chills down their spines. Indeed. Other than the death of a Supreme Elder from the Shengling sect, which diabolism was responsible for, the demise of the other unparalleled experts of the Dan realm were all attributed to the Dragon King. In less than half a year, 5 unparalleled experts had died at the hands of the Dragon King, terminator of the unparalleled experts. This Dragon King is simply invincible. Regardless of who they are or their prowess, all those who antagonized him have been killed. To fight till one perishes. It seems that the Dragon sect has really gone all out with the Donghua Sacred sect till one perishes. Killing an unparalleled expert along with a dozen or so inborn experts from the Donghua Sacred sect. It's definitely bloodshed this time. It seems like either one or the other between the Donghua Sacred sect and the Dragon sect will have to perish. But even if they can annihilate the Dragon sect, the Donghua Sacred sect is bound to suffer massive losses. No one saw this coming. To think that the Dragon King and his Dragon sect have wiped out a huge number of experts from the Donghua Sacred sect after annihilating the remains. Sigh, the acts of this Dragon King are the Dragon King's style. I don't care if you're from the Orthodox sects or diabolism. Just don't antagonize me. For those who do, death shall await you. Rather offend the King of Hades than the Dragon King. Chapter 530. The arrival of the Golden Swordfish race. The entire underworld was in a frenzy after the Dragon sect annihilated a group of experts from the Donghua Sacred sect. Everyone could only heave a sigh helplessly. The major battle between the Orthodox sects and diabolism was just about to erupt. The Dragon King annihilating the remains was undoubtedly an exceptional piece of good news. However, he had also killed a group of experts from Donghua Sacred sect, denting the overall strength of the alliance of the Orthodox sects. We could only pin our hopes on the battle tomorrow between the sect leader of Donghua Sacred sect, Nai Wushuang, and Emperor Qi from diabolism. This battle will dictate the fate of the entire underworld. I really hope that sect leader Nai Wushuang will win. In this case, diabolism would have no choice but to go into seclusion once again. At night, the attention of the martial artists in the underworld had shifted from the Dragon King of the Dragon sect to the major battle the next day. Everyone was gloomy and feeling a little worried. Since Emperor Qi of diabolism had dared to challenge sect leader Nai Wushuang, it would only mean that Emperor Qi had a strength that was close to Nai Wushuang. In the major battle the next day, no one could guarantee that Nai Wushuang would emerge victorious. After all, the name of diabolism still instilled fear in the minds of many people. The strongest expert from the underworld, sect leader Nai Wushuang from Donghua Sacred sect vs the strongest expert from diabolism, sect leader Nai Wushuang from Devil Corpse Palace. When Wang Xian arrived at Rivertown and saw the messages on the underworld forum, he couldn't help but show a little hesitation. All the martial artists in the entire underworld would likely be going to watch the life and death battle between the strongest existences. Let's go take a look tomorrow. A battle of this level isn't common, and I can also catch a glimpse of the strength of diabolism, Wang Xian thought to himself. He naturally wouldn't skip such a grand occasion. BZZ. At this moment, Wang Xian's phone rang. When he picked it up, he was surprised to learn that it was from Mo Qinglong. What happened? Wang Xian accepted the call without hesitation. Dragon King, Prime Minister Turtle and the other experts have been revived. Mo Qinglong's voice sounded from the other end of the phone. This was a pleasant surprise for Wang Xian. They are revived. What is their strength level now? Wang Xian asked in anticipation. Considering that they were gathering energy for revival in the dragon transformation pool, their strength would likely experience a substantial boost. Prime Minister Turtle and the other leaders have reached the budding realm. As for the rest, they are largely in the Dan realm and inborn realm, Mo Qinglong answered. Budding realm. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. Now that Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Heavens, Roving Yakshaw and the rest had reached the budding realm, it would mean that there were roughly a dozen-odd budding realm existences among the Dragon Palace members. A dozen-odd level 12 existences and a group of Dan realm experts was sufficiently strong. Wang Xian's eyes gleamed with agitation. With this level of strength, not many forces could stand up against them, even on the international stage. At the very least, all the forces he encountered in Dubai previously wouldn't be a match for him. How did the guidance of the Golden Swordfish race go? Asked Wang Xian. Dragon King, they have no issues with interacting with humans. Moreover, they have high intelligence. It shouldn't be a problem if you want to send them onto land. Mo Qinglong answered. Wang Xian nodded his head, hesitating for a moment before continuing. You can come back now. Bring the Golden Swordfish race with you. Yes, Dragon King. We should be able to reach Rivertown by 2 a.m. Mo Qinglong nodded his head. Wang Xian hung up the phone and knocked on the table with his hand. The Golden Swordfish race could take on human form. Wang Xian was prepared to let them handle some forces on the seas, starting from the disordered region. Besides that, he was prepared to gather resources for the upgrade of the Dragon Palace. Among the Golden Swordfish race, there was a level 12 budding realm existence, 5 at the Dan realm, and the rest were at the inborn realm. In total, there were over 150 of them. This force was sufficiently strong. Looking at the time, Wang Xian noticed that it was already past 10 p.m. He hesitated for a moment before walking towards the villa. When Wang Xian entered the villa, he instantly picked up Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyu's presents. What should we do, Sister Qingyu? Now that the foreign girl is acting like this every day, what should we do? She's trying to get on our good books every day. TSK. She's even a princess from Dubai. However, it still feels pretty good to have a princess trying to curry favor from us. What's the matter, Shuqing? Are you going to give in? How can that be possible? I would never give in. TSK. It's all Xiao Xian's fault. Oh, right. This scumbag has been running out every day recently. Do you think he will bring another girl back in a few days? The two of them were conversing in a room. When Guan Shuqing made that statement, Wang Xian could feel both of them sitting up on the bed instantly. That's a real possibility. All dragons are lustful and this is fully on display with him. Lan Qingyu gritted her teeth. The sounds of her teeth grinding gave Wang Xian a chill down his spine. If he dares to bring another girl back, we shall not talk to him. Not for eternity. Guan Shuqing grumbled furiously. Wang Xian, who was standing outside, couldn't help but rub his nose. He hesitated for a moment before tiptoeing towards their room. While the two of them were having an emotional conversation, Wang Xian appeared before the door and removed all his clothes. Hello, I'm back. Wang Xian pushed open the door, shouting while naked and pouncing onto the bed directly. You! Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyu, who had been chatting, were stunned. Get out of here. I'm not going to. Scumbag. You are a pervert. Yes, yes. I'm a pervert. You. Woo-woo. Wang Xian enjoyed the great feelings of being conquered. Scram. While he was reliving the excitement 3 hours later, he was kicked off the bed. Looking at the two furious girls, Wang Xian walked out with a sheepish smile. Soon. Soon. Everything will be resolved soon. If it isn't this time, it will be the next. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. Returning to the floating island, he waited for Mo Qinglong's arrival. Currently, Wang Xian wouldn't even feel the slightest bit of fatigue even if he did not sleep for 10 full days. 2 a.m. A boat approached the floating island slowly. On the island, figure after figure jumped off the boat. Over 100 burly figures that were over 2 meters tall had landed on the island. They looked around the island curiously. Dragon King. When Wang Xian walked over, everyone went on their knees and greeted him respectfully. You may rise. Wang Xian looked towards Mo Qinglong before turning to the Golden Swordfish race. Your name will be Roving Sword from here onwards. You will be responsible to lead the entire Golden Swordfish race. Wang Xian gave the leader of the Golden Swordfish race a name. They were covered in a layer of golden scales and held incomparably sharp longswords in their hands. The shape was slightly different from typical longswords. The golden glow of their bodies also felt extremely sharp. Their long swords were connected to their arms. These were the sharp weapons they'd had on their heads previously. The might of these long swords would differ based on their strength level. They could match weapons of a similar level and were insanely powerful. Chapter 531, The Fearless. 1 Budding Realm Expert, 5 Dan Realm Experts, and 150 Inborn Experts. The scales on their bodies were the best protection and swords in their hands the ultimate weapons. With these, the golden swordfish appeared to be pinnacle inborn experts armed with inborn spiritual weapons and a similar level of armor. "Bring the golden swordfish with us tomorrow," proclaimed Wang Xian as he let out a glimpse of a smile. With the golden swordfish adding to the strength of Dragon Sect, that would make up a good 200 inborn experts, which far exceeded the strength of Donghua Sacred Sect. Although this formation may be slightly inferior to the alliance of orthodox sects, it was definitely strong enough to strike or across the underworld. "Fearless I shall be, tomorrow." Wang Xian smirked. All the while, Nai Wushuang was the main thing stopping him from confronting Donghua Sacred Sect. Based on his estimation, Nai Wushuang should be at the level of the budding realm by now. Still, his actual power at that level remained unknown. If his power were to be on par with Wang Xian, then Dragon Sect would not have any edge over Donghua Sacred Sect. However, with the golden swordfish on my side, be it Donghua Sacred Sect, or any other sect of diabolism, I'll whack the hell out of you people. A tinge of gladness was seen in his eyes. Showdown Day. Peak of Huashan. As the sun rose, today marked an important day for the entire underworld, as it concerned the future of the underworld. Families and ancestral sects from all over the country flocked to Huashan. Unlike the outstanding Young Heroes competition, today's battle concerned everyone's lives. With all the martial artists making their way to Huashan, one could expect no less than hundreds of thousands of martial artists from the underworld to gather here. This is not a word of exaggeration. I wonder if the Dragon King will turn up for the duel today. I'd think so. But I'd rather he didn't. It seems that something terrible is going to happen with him around. I don't think he will go since he has offended both the orthodox sects and diabolism after annihilating the remains and several experts from the Donghua Sacred Sect a couple of days ago. He would be in trouble if Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi decided to get even with him. With the Dragon King's unpredictable behavior, one can't be too sure. All martial artist families had gathered in the Jiang city, heading towards Huashan as their destination. Old Shui and the Ren and Duan families were exchanging conversations. The Dragon King came from Rivertown, and they were also the ones who had witnessed his rise. Nonetheless, never in their wildest dreams did they expect that the young lad back then would make his mark on the underworld today. Old Shui, in particular, had emotions that were even more stirred up for the fact that the Dragon King had unblocked his meridians for him. Due to this, he could advance to half-step to Inborn Realm, which was considered to be rather remarkable in the underworld. "Do you have any idea whether the Dragon King will be going, Old Shui?" asked Ren family head after moments of hesitation. All eyes were on Old Shui, as they knew very well that he and the Dragon King were on good terms. Moreover, the Dragon King must have played a part in Old Shui's advancement. Otherwise, they did not believe an elder martial artist could have skipped a few levels within a year. "Yes, he'll be there," muttered Old Shui, with much bitterness. Upon hearing the much-expected answer, the martial artists shook their heads slowly. One can only hope that nothing too disastrous will happen. The fate of the underworld lies in the hands of this battle. Just as Dragon Sect announced its establishment at Huashan, the taking of the underworld by Dragon Sect shall happen right here as well. Looking at the mountains in the distance, a trace of arrogance flashed across Wang Xian's face. With 50 disciples of the Dragon Sect and 156 members from the Golden Swordfish behind Wang Xian, the group hurried to Huashan at lightning speed. From afar, Wang Xian saw many martial artists gathered at Huashan, and the number was a good dozen times more compared to the outstanding Young Heroes competition. Each and every martial artist was armed with weapons, fully prepared for a great battle. Huashan was not only expecting martial artists from the underworld today, but those from diabolism as well. Although it had been set that the orthodox sects and diabolism would not fight against each other on this very day, No one could be sure of that. Let's head over, Wang Xian commanded. With his 200 men, Wang Xian dismounted in a quiet corner and walked gradually towards the entrance of Huashan. Who do you guys think is likely to emerge as the winner for today's duel? Undoubtedly, our sect leader Nai Wuya. He topped the underworld as the strongest expert half a century ago, and he took the lives of numerous experts then. Our victory in that battle 50 years ago was owed largely to him. Thus, history shall repeat itself today. Emperor Qi of the Devil Corpse Palace is equally competent. He must have been very confident with himself to have challenged sect leader Nai Wuya. We shall give our support to sect leader Nai Wuya. Emperor Qi from Diabolism shall be killed. That's right. We shall support sect leader Nai Wuya. Many discussions were going on in the surroundings as all of Huashan was swamped with martial artists. Wang Xian was able to see groups of sect disciples dressed in uniform attire, not too long into his walk. With a faint smile on his face, Wang Xian glanced briefly at them while continuing on his way ahead. Hey, that's Dragon Sect and the Dragon King, someone exclaimed, drawing the attention of all martial artists to look at Wang Xian in astonishment. To think the king of Dragon Sect had the nerve to come. That's truly dauntless of him. Precisely, he still has the guts to be here after beheading so many experts of Donghua Sacred Sect just yesterday. Isn't he afraid that sect leader Nai Wushuang will take revenge? And Diabolism is not going to let him off lightly for killing the remains either. It's daring of him to be here. Look, the Dragon King has many more followers than before. Are they the new disciples of the sect? Why is it that I cannot sense their inner power? Besides, they are not wearing any masks or wings. They must be the latest disciples groomed by Dragon Sect. Wang Xian and his followers had instantly become the center of attention after making their appearance, as everyone was making comments discreetly about them. With the Dragon King gaining the greatest slayer of unparalleled experts as his latest title, one would refrain from making comments about him openly. Otherwise, one could end up being finished off by him at any time. The Dragon Sect was said to be an unkind sect, as it had been perceived as a sacred sect of both righteousness and evil. Very soon, the news of the Dragon King being here with his group of disciples at Huashan went around. Many sects and families were slightly surprised by their showing up. Let's hope the Dragon Sect and Dragon King will not bring any misfortune to us at Huashan today. Misfortune bestowed in the presence of the Dragon King. This is, however, unlikely to happen today. With powers of the entire underworld and Diabolism coming together, the Dragon King is expected to take a low profile. Chapter 532, Annihilating the Arrogant. Move aside. Move aside. At the entrance to Huashan, the inborn experts of the sacred clan, Dongmen clan, shouted as they saw Wang Xian leading his disciples over. The surrounding crowd was alarmed by the shouts of the Dongmen clan, and they turned around to take a look. Dragon King of the Dragon Sect. Move aside. Move aside. Even the sacred clan, Dongmen, moved aside immediately. What are first-class forces like you guys still standing there for? As the shouts reverberated, a path towards the entrance of Huashan opened up as the crowd watched the Dragon Sect enter Huashan. All the martial artists had their eyes on the people from the Dragon Sect. They were baffled. Seeing what was happening around, Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. This path was built from the bloodshed he had caused. His name and its authority were established through countless massacres. Even Sacred Clan had to move aside when they encountered Dragon Sect. Wang Xian walked ahead emotionlessly. Behind him, different clans and sects discussed softly as they could only look at their backs. The battle on Huashan would be at the highest peak of Huashan, which was located in the middle region of Huashan. In that place, the highest peak was over 2,000 meters tall. The battle would be held there. There were a dozen-odd entrances to the highest peak of Huashan. Wang Xian walked at the front of the pack. The martial artists in front of and behind him were at least 100 meters away. Diabolism. Those are people from Diabolism. Just as Wang Xian led the disciples of Dragon Sect to a forked road, he heard shouting from his side. Hee. Their blood is so fresh. I really hope the major battle will be over soon. After that, We can drink and suck their fresh blood to our heart's content. It will be soon. After Emperor Qi defeats Nai Wushuang, the major battle will begin. We have been lying low for 50 years. Now is the time to show our fangs. Hee hee. A few arrogant voices resounded. Ah, bugs. Bug. Mum, these blood-red bugs. Crimson bug, what do you guys want? At this moment, a sharp shriek pierced the atmosphere. Don't be so anxious, girl. The major battle hasn't started. Diabolism follows the rules closely. Hee hee. Don't be such a coward. Wang Xian walked forward and saw martial artists from Diabolism, who were wearing red outfits, teasing the group at the other end. Under their loose red outfits, one could still see something wiggling and moving. A short distance away, a girl stood behind another lady. Her face was as white as snow. Before the girl, there were a dozen odd savage-looking bugs. These bugs had razor-sharp mouthparts. Some of them had countless legs while others were wiggling around. All the bugs shared a common trait, and that was that they were entirely red with a stench of blood around them. Crimson Bug, an elite sect below the 4 strongest devil sects. They have a strength that can equal a sacred sect in the underworld. All the cultivators in Crimson Bug are exceptionally gruesome. They breed bugs with their bodies. The stronger these bugs are, the stronger they are. Since the remains have been annihilated, they are widely regarded as having the capabilities to take their place. A few middle-aged men standing by the side commented. When their eyes fell on the bloody bugs on the floor, their faces paled. The cultivation arts of those in Diabolism were all weird. Seeing that the group ahead had stopped moving, Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and shouted, "If you guys aren't moving, move aside. There are bugs ahead." Upon hearing the voice behind her, the girl that was frightened answered with a weak voice. "Huh." When the rest of the crowd ahead heard Wang Xian, they were alarmed and turned their heads around curiously. They looked baffled while staring at Wang Xian and the group. "Don't recognize me?" Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and his attention fell on their outfit. A group of martial artists from second-class forces. They seemed to be from the same family or clan. In the underworld, all first-class and saint-class forces would have recognized him. Only second-class forces and weaker forces might not recognize him. Also, Roving Sword of the Golden Swordfish race and 5 other Golden Swordfish members stood in a row with Mo Qinglong and Wang Xian. Their 2-meter-tall statures completely blocked their sight of the disciples of Dragon Sect, who were wearing masks and devil wings. Therefore, these people didn't recognize Wang Xian. Bugs. Wang Xian chuckled and walked straight ahead. When the members of those second-class forces saw Wang Xian walking towards them, they hesitated for a moment before moving aside rapidly. If there are bugs, just kill them. Seeing a dozen-odd blood-red bugs the size of one's middle finger on the path ahead, Wang Xian waved his arm casually. A ball of flames shrouded forward. "Huh!" A sharp noise sounded and the dozen-odd bloody bugs jumped towards a middle-aged man with incredible speed. Wang Xian smirked with contempt. Screech! 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 In the next instant, the flames fell on the bloody bugs and horrifying cries could be heard. After a brief moment, they were reduced to ashes. "How dare you kill my bloody bugs? You must be tired of living." Seeing his bloody bugs being annihilated instantly, the middle-aged man growled savagely. He turned around and stared at Wang Xian. At this moment, the bloody bugs within his body seemed to be able to sense his fury. 2 bloody bugs the size of a fist wiggled out of his sleeves. These 2 bugs only had 1 blood-red eye and were staring coldly at Wang Xian. "So what?" Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man as his lips curved into a smile. Contempt was written all over his face. "All right, Baoji. We have a promise with the orthodox sects that we will not start a conflict here. Just remember him. When the major battle begins, let your bloody bugs make a sumptuous meal of him." The old man by the side looked at Wang Xian plainly before reminding the middle-aged man. "Hee hee. Brat. I'll remember your face. Don't be anxious. I'll be going after you in a few days. I'll breed more bugs in your body to replace the 13 you have killed. Hee hee. I'm not in a rush and you shouldn't be either." The middle-aged man stared coldly at Wang Xian. His clothes were tumbling and he looked horrifying. Several disciples of the second-class families around paled at the sight of that. How unruly and arrogant. Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man and showed a faint smile. He. Now that you have become my prey, eat more over the next few days. When the major battle between the orthodox sects and devil sects begins, I will use your corpse to feed my babies. The middle-aged man smiled creepily, revealing his blood-red teeth. A pungent stench of blood was surrounding him. Several members of those second-class forces took several steps back in fear. A bunch of cowards. Your easy and comfortable lives will be coming to an end soon. Enjoy the last few days of your lives. Seeing them retreating, a young man remarked with ridicule. You guys are really noisy. It would seem that I have annihilated too few people from diabolism. There are actually people who can't recognize me. Wang Xian looked across the crowd of more than 100 members from the Crimson Bug. He continued with an emotionless tone, kill all of them. Chapter 533, Time to whack everyone. Kill all of them. His emotionless voice was heard everywhere, hitting the surrounding second-class forces, who displayed startled looks. To their surprise, the forces that had been following behind Wang Xian halted when the dragon sect came to a stop. They were listening attentively to the conversation ahead when they noticed a plain voice. All of them were shocked. The group of experts from Dongmen clan, who was the closest group, could not help but twitch their lips. I wonder which fellow doesn't want his life. I think we should stay a distance away from it. It seems unsafe to stay too close to Dragon Sect. Some of the inborn experts from Dongmen clan were discussing softly. They were terrified, as this fierce man just kill anyone as he liked. Today was the battling day between sect leader Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi of Diabolism. Both of them had made a pact that no conflict was allowed. Donghua Sacred Sect had also issued orders that no martial artists were allowed to strike today. Since Donghua Sacred Sect and the alliance of the orthodox sects had taken their stance, who dared to make their moves? This was simply a suicide move. But clearly, Dragon Sect was not bound by this rule. Kill us all. The bunch of people from Crimson Bug was stunned by Wang Xian's words. They stared hard at Wang Xian, revealing a creepy look. Kill us all. Hayak, what the? Before they could finish their sentence, 20 devil figures flashed out from behind Wang Xian, launching their attack at a domineering speed. How dare you break the rules? Go to hell. The three old men who stood at the forefront of Crimson Bug let out a creepy shriek when they saw the Black Shadow's attacks. Boom boom. At this time, the score of Dragonians released their daunting oppression with terrifying dragon claws, raking at the experts of Crimson Bug. Damn it. The group of 100-odd Crimson Bug people did not come with the ancestral sects. They were the first batch to reach this place. Hence, there were only 3 inborn-level Crimson Bug experts. Burst. Crimson Bug was appalled by the domineering aura from the Dragonians. Their oversized clothes ballooned and flapped as thickly dotted Crimson Bugs began crawling towards the Dragonians. Boom boom. The massive Crimson Bugs exploded out, charging at the Dragonians, filled with a scary corrosive toxin. The Dragonians displayed only disdainful looks as they shook their bodies, releasing intense devil aura while blocking out the explosive blood. They racked their dragon claws across. Hiss. Ah. Screams of panic and desperation were heard as the disciples of Crimson Bug got torn apart. All the Crimson Bugs that were nurturing within the bodies let out a fearful cry. How dare an orthodox sect break the rules? Damn you, an inborn expert from Crimson Bug screamed with a scary and malevolent face after witnessing hundreds of disciples almost getting wiped out. A crimson insect flew into the sky and exploded in the air, 1,000 meters high. Boom. The crimson glow lit up the sky, as that bug was a type of signal bug. I'm not from the alliance of the orthodox sects. Why do I care? Upon hearing that inborn expert of Crimson Bug, Wang Xian sneered. Ah. Before the 3 inborn experts could say anything, they were slaughtered by 3 Dragonians. Eek, eek. The hideous Crimson Bugs were still found all over the ground, letting out cries of horror. Beside them lay the corpses of their owners. 20 seconds was all it took to exterminate the hundreds of disciples of Crimson Bug, who had been clamoring in arrogance not long ago. They couldn't resist or struggle. Several second-class forces beside Wang Xian were stupefied by what they saw. Dragon sect, it's the dragon sect. He's the Dragon King. A girl, by the side, was crying out in surprise and excitement. Come here, Zana. A lady who was standing beside her quickly pulled her to one side as she looked at Wang Xian with consternation. Dragon sect, Dragon King. Other disciples of second-class forces also staggered back in trepidation. Reputation was all that mattered. Now that they had witnessed the Dragon King of Dragon sect killing a bunch of people from Crimson Bug, all of them were shaking in their boots. Dragon King. An old man took a deep breath and lowered his chin with his fist cupped and a pale-looking face. Dragon King. The rest of the people quickly bowed with their hands cupped. That girl, who had been looking at Wang Xian with curiosity, was pressed down by the lady beside her. Let's go. Wang Xian nodded his head plainly. With a swing, a flame began to burn away all the Crimson Bugs on the ground to the right. Who dares to attack the disciples of Crimson Bug? A tyrannical roar came before Wang Xian could even take 2 steps. He saw red figures flitting towards their direction from the right rear side. Wang Xian whirled around and stopped moving as he looked over with a beaming face. There were thousands of people with an old man who had an odd-looking bug that looked like a facehugger on his head. The bug looked extremely scary and hideous and was slapping on the top of the head. The more frightening thing was his face, as it was covered in tiny and thickly dotted little bugs twisting around. It looked extremely horrifying. The old man wore an extremely oversized crimson robe with great terror hidden inside. Standing behind the old man were inborn experts of Crimson Bug, who looked ugly and hideous. When the group arrived, all the people from the second-class forces gasped. They started to shiver. If the war between the good and the bad break out, they really had no idea how to fight this bunch of scary people. The incoming rush of pungent blood already made them sick, and all they could do was watch these people blankly. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows as he looked at this bunch of people. With a cold gaze swept at that old man, he said indifferently, "Not attack, wipe out. Look at the floor. Those are their ashes." Ha! That old man was slightly taken aback as he traced the floor with eyes, which were slowly turning red. There seemed to be scary bugs swimming in his eyeballs. Great, how dare you kill my disciples? Since you broke the rules first, I'll give you a bloodbath. The old man opened his mouth wide enough for one to see worms wriggling inside it. He was a worm man. What's going on? Why did the group stop again? It's Crimson Bug. Just now, the Dragon King seemed to have annihilated them, and now, the experts of Crimson Bug have arrived. The Crimson Bug of Diabolism is really courting their own doom. I'm happy to see this though. The people from Diabolism are really ignorant. How did they not recognize the Dragon King from Dragon Sect? This is getting exciting. The Crimson Bug of Diabolism is going to get exterminated, I'm sure. How can the person who offended Dragon Sect stay alive? It's just a mere Crimson Bug. The sacred clans and ancestral sects commented with thrill and anticipation. They had been following behind Dragon Sect at 100 meters away, wiping the sweat away from their foreheads. Chapter 534, Crimson Bug Annihilated. Wherever the Dragon Sect went, there would be bloodshed. The crowd from Diabolism was arrogant and domineering. After being through the incident with the remains, Wang Xian didn't have a good impression of Diabolism. Now that the disciples of Crimson Bug were acting pompously and arrogantly before him, he would naturally not let them off. When it was time to kill, he would do as such. Wang Xian didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt for killing the people from Diabolism. Similarly, he wouldn't feel any guilt for killing his enemies. As for those good-natured people, or innocent people or forces, Wang Xian would not kill rampantly. All along, Wang Xian had adopted an attitude of not offending others if they didn't offend him in the underworld. If others offended him, he would just have to kill them. Naturally, the members of the Crimson Bug before him looked savage and even a little perverse. In Wang Xian's view, they couldn't even be considered humans. Seeing how Wang Xian casually pointed to the ashes of the disciples from Crimson Bug while replying, the second-class forces around him couldn't help but feel their mouths twitch. They looked to the 1,000+ experts from Crimson Bug and staggered back in fear. They were afraid and terrorized. After moving back 100 meters, they finally stopped ahead of the Dongmen clan. At this moment, they heaved a long sigh. What's happening? The experts of the Crimson Bug are all here? As part of the mountain was blocking their sight, they couldn't see what was happening to their right. When an inborn expert from Dongmen clan saw the second-class forces retreating towards them in horror, he immediately asked this. The experts from the Crimson Bug are all here. There are over 1,000 of them and they are truly terrifying, an old man answered, speaking to the inborn expert from Dongmen clan respectfully. They are really here? Haha. Great. Another devil sect will be annihilated. When that inborn expert heard the old man, he couldn't help but grin. The crowd behind him also revealed smiles. Offending the dragon sect? These people must be tired of living. Hadn't they heard of the saying you'd rather offend Hades than offending the Dragon King? As the people ahead had stopped, those at the back could only do the same. Some were rushing the people ahead of them impatiently. As a result, the news of the clash between the Dragon King of Dragon Sect and the Crimson Bug quickly spread. Crimson Bug must be tired of living. Music to my ears. The Dragon King is going to annihilate another devil sect. The Dragon Sect is really high profile. If they really annihilate the Crimson Bug, all of Diabolism will probably be after Dragon Sect. It isn't just Diabolism, Donghua Sacred Sect will probably go after them too. He's too fearless. The crowd behind discussed while, ahead of them, Wang Xian looked to the 1,000-odd people from Crimson Bug with a radiant smile. Kill all of us. Give it a try. I do hope that the Crimson Bug has the capability to do so. As he spoke, he turned his body slightly to face the entire crowd from Crimson Bug. Just to let you have a good death, I'll tell you that the one who will be killing all of you is the Dragon Sect. Kill. Wang Xian ordered coldly. This time, it wasn't just the 50 Dragonians who struck. The 150 golden swordfish also struck. Roving Sword didn't make a move. This was because they weren't qualified for him to take action. If he really participated, he would finish off all the enemies in a single strike. Wang Xian would still like to see the true strength of the golden swordfish race. Kill. When Wang Xian made his order, all the Dragonians and the golden swordfish race moved. In an instant, terrifying killing aura filled the entire sky. Energy of the gold summit, devilish aura, and unparalleled killing intent surprised even the people 100 meters behind. What terrifying auras! Retreat! We've got to move back further. Those from Dongmen clan who hadn't reached the inborn level paled. The experts from Dongmen clan shouted immediately as they moved back rapidly. The auras from more than 150 inborn experts together and 5 Dan realm experts could even suffocate an inborn expert. They didn't dare to witness the fight at all as they rushed back in horror. Obviously, when Wang Xian made his last statement regarding who would be killing them, the eyes of the old man at the forefront of the Crimson Bug group widened. Fear instantly gripped him. When he saw those horrifying figures charging towards him, he instantly felt as though he was in an ice cellar. His body was shivering and cold. Oh gosh, this. All those behind him are inborn expert. How can this be? And those 5 at the front, those are Dan realm experts. They are experts at the same level as me. How can this be? How can there be so many unparalleled experts? As one of the vice leaders of Crimson Bug and a Dan realm unparalleled expert, this was the first time he felt fear. When Wang Xian said they were from Dragon Sect, his heart was wrenched. Dragon Sect was the force that had annihilated the powerful remains, and this group of people before him was from the Dragon Sect. That young man was the Dragon King. Seeing experts charging towards him from all directions, he shouted in horror, Dragon King, our Crimson Bug has no feud with you. Why do you have to annihilate us? Because I want to represent justice. Therefore, I'm annihilating all of you. Wang Xian answered in a nonchalant tone. The vice sect leader of Crimson Bug also threw up blood. Looking at the golden swordfish experts that were attacking him, he immediately fled without a moment of hesitation. Run! Run immediately! Run! The vice sect leader of Crimson Bug didn't hesitate at all as he shouted in horror. These terrifying existences had greatly exceeded his expectations. Didn't Dragon Sect only have 50 inborn experts? Isn't the Dragon King the only Dan Realm expert in the Dragon Sect? How are there more than 150 inborn experts and 5 Dan Realm experts here? What did Crimson Bug have to go against it? The roar from the vice sect leader of Crimson Bug reverberated across Huashan. Even if one was standing several tens of kilometers away, he would be able to hear it clearly. Ancient spiritual sword slash. At this moment, a ray of golden light glowed dazzlingly and illuminated the sky. Rumble. A 10-meter-long golden ray slashed towards the vice sect leader of the Crimson Bug. What? Seeing the golden sword ray approaching him, the vice sect leader of Crimson Bug was flabbergasted. Return of the spiritual sword. At this moment, an emotionless voice resounded and another long golden ray of a sword edge flew over. However, this ray of golden light came from directly before him. One from the front and one from the back. Ancient spiritual sword slash. The golden swordfish race resembled sword celestials. As they swung their blades, thousands of creatures were killed instantly. Ah! At this moment, a wretched cry reverberated throughout the sky of Huashan. The path of sword techniques was widely regarded as the strongest path of killing. An attacking sword celestial was the strongest in the world. Due to their gifts, the golden swordfish race had sharp swords from birth. After practicing the ancient spiritual sword technique and training in the Dragonfield, their sword techniques could triumph over the world. The terrifying sword of killing was even sharper than the attacks from the Dragonians. Crimson Bug only had 20-odd inborn experts. There was no way they could withstand a wave of attacks from more than 150 inborn experts. As for those who weren't even at the inborn realm, their state was even more brutal. After the sword of killing and terrifying devilish aura swept across, less than 5 people were alive. When the vice sect leader of the Crimson Bug saw this, his vision darkened. 2 sword edges slashed across his body. Chapter 535, The World is the Enemy. Ah! Shrieks of panic and desperation were heard as it was total overkill. In less than a minute, the Crimson Bug had been totally wiped out. None of the forces would ever believe such a speed when the word got out. Crimson Bug was comparable to the existence of a sacred sect. Yet, it had been wiped out in a brief moment. Even a Dan Realm expert had been killed easily. Wang Xian was satisfied with what he saw. The power of the Golden Swordfish clan had gone beyond his expectation. Given their combat power, it was not something Dragonians could match up with. After all, one was a man-made Dragonian, while the other one had gone through the baptism of the dragon pool who had a chance to evolve into a real dragon in the future. Eek, eek. Countless crimson bugs were crawling around on the floor while Wang Xian swung his arm and hurled out the nether skull. Black nether flame immediately shrouded across the bugs and corpses. Sizzle. A somewhat petrifying sound was heard as the nether skull opened its mouth to gobble up the nether flame. The deity lady of nether flame denomination would have never expected the nether skull could have devoured so much energy in Wang Xian's hand. Amitabha, which benefactor is taking lives out here? Does he want to break the rules? At this time, a voice came from the sky as 20 bald monks emerged from the mountain to the south. They were wearing crimson kasayas with blood-red beads in their hands. They looked down with brows furrowed. Crimson Bug. Their disciples are all wiped out. Another voice came from the southwest. One by one, experts who had sickles and were dressed in oversized black hoodies sprouted out from the mountains. Their eyes were glimmering with black radiance. Ha! Dragon King of Dragon Sect. How dare you guys show up at this place? A group of experts were suspended in the air, looking over in Wang Xian's direction. Nai Wuya, at the center, glowered at Wang Xian with a hateful expression. The Dragon King of Dragon Sect actually wiped out the crimson bugs of diabolism. Gasp! Several experts from sacred sects leaped to the summit of a mountain at the southeast. When they looked over here, they sucked in a cold breath. Wang Xian swept his gaze across Donghua sacred sect and several sects from diabolism. With his lips slightly drawn, he said, "Crimson Bug offended me, so they deserve to die. Dragon King, I think you're simply digging your own grave by coming here today. After our sect leader eliminates Emperor Qi, it will be your doom. Nai Wuya stared at Wang Xian with bloodshot eyes as he bellowed in a low voice. What happened last night was just the beginning. There's no hurry, because I'll annihilate Donghua sacred sect. Wang Xian looked in the direction of Nai Wuya and spoke with a flat tone. Fine, let's see who will be annihilated. Nai Wuya clenched his fists tight as he snorted and leaped down. So it's the Dragon King from Dragon Sect who annihilated the remains and now, Crimson Bug. Are you declaring war with us? Asked the experts from Reed Spirits coldly, with their black clothing and sickles in their hands. I'll kill whoever messes with me. Wang Xian looked over and continued with an overbearing vibe, you guys are no exception. Amitabha, if you commit a killing sin, you'll go to hell. The experts from Devil Spirit's temple slowly spoke. They took one look at Wang Xian before they turned and stalked away. Wang Xian curled his lips slightly. With an arm swing, the nether skull flew back into his hand, leaving a floor of ashes. Let's go. Wang Xian headed to the tallest peak of Huashan with a smile on his face. He did not have the slightest care about annihilating Crimson Bug effortlessly. The arrival of the Golden Swordfish clan enhanced the foundation of Wang Xian by 2 to 3 folds. Roving Sword could fight against a budding realm expert. Wang Xian could, too, handle or kill one budding realm expert. Judging from the situation in the underworld now, the strongest would be Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi. Both of them were at most budding realm experts. He could fight them off. Hence, he was fearless. The annihilation of Crimson Bug only took a few minutes. After the despairing screams, the unparalleled expert of Crimson Bug finally knew they were from Dragon Sect. Hence, there was no hesitation in getting all the disciples to flee. I seem to have heard voices from Donghua sacred sect experts too. All the underworld experts have heard the growl and cries. Upon seeing the departure of Dragon Sect, the forces from the underworld then slowly followed behind. When they spotted the ashes tracing a human shape on the right-hand side, they took in some cold air. Within a short period of time, a terrifying force that was comparable to a sacred sect was annihilated. The power of Dragon Sect was domineering. We cannot afford to offend Dragon Sect. The Huashan summit had become a scenic area that was somewhat important. However, no ordinary men except martial artists were here today. When Wang Xian was nearing the Huashan summit, all the martial artists were already packing the place. When these martial artists saw Wang Xian and the gang, they were slightly stunned, with a look of awe in their eyes. Ha! This feeling is. Suddenly, Wang Xian's brow furrowed as he looked towards a mountain on his left. This was Wang Xian's second trip to Huashan, and it was also his second time having such a peculiar feeling. The first time was at the legendary Zhongfang Immortal Bridge, another quizzical aspect of Huashan. When Wang Xian had attempted to look in that direction with his piercing eyes, he seemed to be blocked by unique energy. Today, the feeling got intense when he was nearing the Huashan summit. He squinted his eyes slightly with blue and red radiance flashing in them. I'm still blocked out by a kind of energy. It's just that the energy is weaker at this spot. Why does Huashan always give me a kind of feeling that there is another world hidden away within it? That energy feels like some kind of array in the Dragon Palace. Is there a great array in this place? Wang Xian had all the questions in his mind as he pondered while frowning. Strange. 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 Arrays were something that existed in legends. The only array in the underworld that he came across was in Donghua Sacred Sect, and the power of that array was SOSO. The array over here had reached an astounding level, such that he could only sense a slight degree of creepiness with his current strength. Just as Wang Xian was standing there deep in thought, the various sects and clans from the underworld were heading to the foot of the tallest peak of Huashan. When those martial artists passed by and saw Wang Xian deep in thought, they were whispering among themselves. As soon as they arrived at the foot of the tallest peak, the alliance of the orthodox sects and diabolism had already divided into 2 distinctive camps. In terms of numbers, diabolism had fewer people than the alliance of the orthodox sects by a few folds. However, every diabolism martial artist was exuding a powerful aura. Before sect leader Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi of diabolism arrived, all the martial artists were exchanging conversations in low voices. At this time, Donghua Sacred Sect released an order stating that the alliance of the orthodox sects would be eliminating Dragon Sect after sect leader Nai Wushuang claimed victory. Apart from Sui clan and Xiao clan, who disagreed with it, all the sacred sects and sacred clans in the alliance of the orthodox sects were assumed closed. As for diabolism, all the denominations in diabolism had already decided that they would exterminate Dragon Sect after the battle. Dragon Sect was going to have the world as their enemy. Chapter 536. A real man faces a strong opponent directly. 1. Why aren't sect leader Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi here yet? The arranged timing for their battle is about to start. The experts will always be the last to appear. Don't be anxious. When the time is here, these two unprecedented experts will appear out of nowhere. Those from diabolism are really disgusting. Look at them. He has snakes as his hair. How disgusting is that? Those are people from cursed venom. Among the devil sects, cursed venom can kill without leaving any traces. You should be careful. Otherwise, you might be assassinated before you know about it. Where is the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect? I heard that people from both the alliance of the orthodox sects and diabolism want to kill the Dragon King. As such, there will be two battles of the ages today. The Dragon King is too unruly and fearless. The moment they arrived, they annihilated the Crimson Bug. They have truly made enemies with the entire underworld. Wang Xian had just arrived at the bottom of the tallest peak in Huashan. The moment he stepped in, he heard all kinds of discussions. His lips curved into a smile as he looked across. At the bottom of the tallest peak of Huashan, there were clearly two separate camps. The orthodox sects and diabolism. Wang Xian smiled and walked towards the middle of the two camps. There weren't any people there and it could be considered as the separating line of the two camps. Now that Wang Xian had walked in this direction, the underlying meaning was clear to all. Dragon King of the Dragon Sect. The Dragon King. When Wang Xian led over 200 people over, the bottom of the tallest peak of Huashan instantly went silent. Around him, there were at least 100,000 people distributed densely across the bottom of the peak. Those weaker or smaller sects and families could only stand and watch from a far distance. The arrival of Wang Xian and the Dragon Sect instantly attracted the attention of the entire crowd. The separation line wasn't broad at all initially. However, the forces from diabolism instantly retreated as Wang Xian and the Dragon Sect stepped ahead. A first-class force from the alliance of orthodox sects also instinctively retreated a little. No matter if they were from the alliance of orthodox sects or diabolism, they were all fearful and wary of the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect. Is the Dragon Sect considered to be the third camp now? Damn! The instant the Dragon Sect arrived, those at the edge from both diabolism and the alliance of orthodox sects instinctively moved away to make space for them. I finally get to see the Dragon King. He's really young. Too young. The entire crowd had looked towards where Wang Xian was standing. There were roughly 200 people behind him. At the same time, soft discussions were happening everywhere. Dragon King, you will die a horrible death soon. Suddenly, an angry roar reverberated and shocked the crowd. The crowd looked over. In the direction of the Devil Corpse Palace, two old men in blood-red outfits were glowering at Wang Xian. One of the old men had a non-human eye. A terrifying feeler extended out and stared creepily ahead. The other old man had a blood-red spider on him. Both of them were glowering at Wang Xian with deep hatred. That's the sect leader and vice-sect leader of Crimson Bug. The sect leader and vice-sect leader of the Crimson Bug came with the Devil Corpse Palace. In the end, a few discussions broke out from the side from several disciples of devil sects. Wang Xian looked to the two old men, revealed a smile and commented, "In that case, come and take my life. Dragon King, don't be so arrogant. I, Yang Chong, will definitely let my bloody bugs devour all the flesh on your body." The sect leader of Crimson Bug clenched his fist tightly as his eyes turned bloodshot. Hee. Wang Xian smiled with ridicule. He crossed his arms and didn't pay attention to the remaining members of the Crimson Bug. Abyss. Dragon Sect. At the location of Heavenly Sound Sect, several experts looked a little bitter. The disciples of the Abyss, being the disciples of the Dragon Sect, had been deduced by others when they went to kill the experts from Donghua Sacred Sect. Heavenly Sound Sect had obviously obtained this information. Recalling the time when the Abyss invaded Heavenly Sound Sect to kill their saint and granddaughter of the Vice Sect leader, they gritted their teeth and their eyes were as cold as ice. Dragon King of the Dragon Sect. Just wait for me. Where Donghua Sacred Sect was standing, the Lord of Sea Serpent Island stood there with a gloomy expression. Beside him, there were 15 other inborn experts other than his son. This was the full strength of Sea Serpent Island. The experts from Donghua Sacred Sect standing nearby also stared coldly at Wang Xian. Wang Xian could sense dense killing intent coming towards him. Ruthlessness gleamed in his eyes. He wasn't in a hurry. After the battle between Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi, it would be time for him to address these grievances. The intense battle would definitely result in severe injuries or even death. Both parties might suffer severe injuries at the same time too. When the time came, he would be able to deal with the entire underworld and diabolism with Roving Sword, the 5 Dan Realm experts, and over 200 inborn experts that had come with him. He could just kill those who weren't convinced of his strength at that point. Wang Xian looked across the entire crowd of the sacred clan and sects behind Donghua Sacred Sect, Devil Corpse Palace, Devil Spirits Temple, Reed Spirits, Crimson Bug and many other forces. Nai Wushuang, I'm here. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted in the sky. An unruly voice came from a far distance away. The voice reverberated with tumbling tumultuous clouds and a man in a black outfit flew over from the north. The man resembled a middle-aged man. His skin tone was a little black and his hair had reached his waist. Behind him, he carried a black coffin. The person in the black coffin resembled a corpse that had been dead for 10,000 years and had no expression. Streams of black aura circled around him gradually. The man took step after step in the air as though he was taking a casual stroll. However, he covered several hundreds of meters with each step. He was insanely fast. The man stopped above the Devil Corpse Palace and waited silently. Emperor Qi. Everyone in Diabolism bowed down and greeted the man respectfully. Some experts of Diabolism were beaming with fear and respect. He was the equivalent of a god in their eyes. I'm here too. When the middle-aged man stood before the devil sects, sounds of metal clashing resounded from afar. Just like a comet leaving a trail as it cut across the sky, a man crossed the sky over Huashan. It was an old man shrouded in faint golden light. His hair was a little unkempt and he had violent and unruly vibes around him. His arms were of a dull gold shade and were glowing faintly. Behind him, he carried a long sword. The long sword spanned 1.6 meters and was exceptionally tough. On it, there were 2 other palm-sized rings. Sect leader Nai Wushuang arrived, stood above the Donghua Sacred Sect and stared at Emperor Qi. Below him, all the martial artists in the underworld, including Dan Realm experts from all other sacred clans and sects, lowered their bodies and greeted Nai Wushuang with great respect. Emperor Qi of Diabolism was the strongest expert in Diabolism. All of Diabolism was willing to pay respects to him. Similarly, Nai Wushuang was the same for the orthodox sects. This was respect for the 2 supreme experts in current times. Over 100,000 people paid respect to these 2 experts. The only exception was Wang Xian, who crossed his arms and stood in the middle. With a face of smiles, he stood upright and looked towards Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi. I've got to say that the appearances of the 2 of them would be even cooler with BGM. Chapter 537, A Real Man Faces a Strong Opponent Directly, 2. Wang Xian hugged his arms as he looked at the 2 supreme experts. With a smile contained in his mouth, he was waiting for the Grand War to arrive. Emperor Qi, you must avenge Crimson Bug. The Dragon King of Dragon Sect just killed all our clan members of Crimson Bug. Out of the blue, the leader of Crimson Bug reported to Emperor Qi of Diabolism with grief and indignation on his face. Emperor Qi, who was standing in the air, lowered his chin slowly as he looked at the grievous leader of Crimson Bug. He turned his head slowly towards Wang Xian. Sect leader, the Dragon King and Dragon Sect barged into Donghua yesterday and slew Supreme Elder Ju, along with 15 inborn disciples and hundreds of our elite, Upon seeing the leader of the Crimson Bug making complaints to Emperor Qi, Nai Wuya hesitated before he reported to Nai Wushuang too. Sect leader Nai Wushuang was still unaware of the fact that the experts of Donghua Sacred Sect had been killed yesterday. How dare you kill the disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect? Nai Wushuang narrowed his eyes as he peered over his shoulder and looked at Wang Xian. At the foot of the tallest peak of Huashan, the Dragon King of Dragon Sect stood out the most. With more than 200 people standing in a separate line, they were divided out from the orthodox and devil sides. At the same time, all of the people were bowing down with respect just now. Only a group of them stood there with smiles on their faces. Emperor Qi looked at the Dragon Sect. Nai Wushuang did the same thing too. Upon seeing this, all the underworld people held their breath with blank looks. In particular, the people from Donghua Sacred Sect and Diabolism who had a feud with the Dragon Sect. Both Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi are looking in the Dragon King's direction. I bet they are finished this time. They received 2 supreme experts' attention, making enemies with 2 expert forces. This time, Dragon Sect is completely doomed. This time, Dragon Sect really played with fire. No one can save them now. Do you guys think Nai Wushuang or Emperor Qi would readily exterminate Dragon Sect before their fight? Possible. Given their invincible combat power, they might be able to annihilate Dragon Sect within a minute. Dragon Sect seems to have recruited another 100-odd disciples. What a pity that the Dragon King has offended Emperor Qi and Nai Wushuang. They will definitely strike. Those forces who stood far in the back were having discussions in soft voices as they witnessed the event unfolding. Provoking the 2 supreme experts from orthodox sects and Diabolism would only bring the Dragon King down. I think the Dragon King is a cool and dashing person. Why does sect leader Nai Wushuang want to kill him? Gosh, he's a good man. Shut up, Zuna. Stop spouting nonsense. Under such circumstances, annihilating Dragon Sect is inevitable, and it was caused by his overly unscrupulous actions. But he destroyed 2 powerful dominations of Diabolism. Why? Lass, stop your comments if you don't know anything. No one is to blame except him. All the sacred sects and sacred clans dislike his way of doing things. Such an existence is just like hugging a suicide bomb. None of us want to get ourselves blown up. Back in one of the spots at the foot of Huashan Summit, the girl who had cried at the sight of Crimson Bug commented with discontent. Her mother was staring at her, giving her a lecture. The girl pouted in dissatisfaction. I'm supporting Dragon King, no matter what. This statement drew the harsh gaze of her mother. Heh. Seeing that both Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi were looking at him, Wang Xian revealed a faint smile with his lips drawn. An ant. Let me kill Nai Wushuang first before I slaughter them without any effort. Emperor Qi was expressionless when he looked at Wang Xian. Then he turned to glower at Nai Wushuang. He's not worth me striking. After I defeat Emperor Qi, you guys can just exterminate them, said Nai Wushuang in an icy tone as he swept his gaze at Wang Xian and the Dragon Sect members. Contempt. Outright contempt. Regardless of whether it was Emperor Qi or Nai Wushuang, neither of them regarded Dragon King highly. To them, they only had one enemy, and that was the one standing before each other. They would not delay their battle just for an insignificant ant or a weakling. Gosh, the overbearing supreme experts. The Dragon King of Dragon Sect is already powerful, but neither Emperor Qi nor Nai Wushuang regards him highly. The Dragon King is indeed strong, but he's just the strongest at our level. In their eyes, he is a nobody who could be killed any time. This is the spirit of a supreme expert. We're impressed by them. Dragon King, who could stir up a ruckus, was not even regarded as being in their league. What Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi had said astounded the members from the underworld and Diabolism. This was the demeanor displayed by supreme experts. They simply disregarded everyone, for they had only one opponent, the rest were not fit for them to waste their energies on. Upon hearing what his sect leader said, a hint of admiration emerged in Nai Wuya's eyes. All the disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect were wearing faces that were complacent and prideful. Look, here's our sect leader, the strongest expert in the underworld. Don't act brazen, Dragon Sect. It will be your death after our sect leader kills his enemy. The two leaders from Crimson Bug revealed a smile, looking elated. After Emperor Qi slays his strong opponent and annihilates Dragon Sect, I will pledge my loyalty to Emperor Qi. The two leaders of Crimson Bug clenched their fists in allegiance. Emperor Qi nodded his head impassively as he turned to Nai Wushuang again. HMPH, Dragon King. Your death will come when my sect leader defeats his opponent. Nai Wuya stared at Wang Xian, growling at him with a face of coldness. After their battle, it will mark the end of Dragon Sect. Be it Diabolism or Donghua Sacred Sect, they had made their stands clear that they would be exterminating Dragon Sect after the battle. None of the ancestral sects and clans commented, as they just followed the flow. The entire atmosphere of the battle had changed drastically. The Orthodox sect and Diabolism were supposed to be at loggerheads, and they vowed to kill each other. Yet, the situation had developed to both wanting Dragon Sect to be annihilated. I must say that a force that has arrived at this stage is considered impressive. Some of them expressed their approval secretly as they looked at Dragon Sect. Some of them had pity in their eyes as they heard the gloating over Dragon Sect's misfortunes. Ant. Not fit to fight with him? Upon hearing Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi, coldness flashed in Wang Xian's eyes as he looked at their scornful eyes. Looking down on me, huh? Wang Xian curled his lips slightly as he stared at the supreme experts who were confronting each other with flickering eyes. He sensed the mocking gazes from the surroundings, and a faint battling intent surged in his heart. I wanted to wait for both of you to have an outcome, or perhaps, reap the benefit after both of you were wounded. But I guess this wasn't cool at all. Wang Xian slowly lowered his chin with a fighting spirit filling his eyes. If that's the case, I'll show the two supreme experts that you guys don't rule the underworld. A real man should face a strong opponent. And a supreme one. Chapter 538, A Real Man Faces a Strong Opponent Directly, 3. It has been 50 years. Our Diabolism has lived in seclusion for 50 years. Now that we have returned, we will definitely rule the underworld. Amidst the towering mountain range and below the majestic tallest peak of Huashan, Emperor Qi stood in the air and spoke plainly. Emperor Qi's voice instantly turned the attention of the crowd from the Dragon Sect as the crowd turned to look at the leader of Diabolism with great excitement. 50 years ago, I, Nai Wushuang, could suppress your Diabolism. Today, I will still be able to do so. The underworld is still going to be our underworld. Nai Wushuang lifted his head slightly and an intense battle will emitted from his body. Great. Show it to me then. Will you be the king of the underworld or will I declare myself the emperor of the underworld? Emperor Qi levitated upwards. A terrifying devilish aura was released from his body and the coffin behind him. Dang dang dang. Sounds of metal clashing rang out around Nai Wushuang. Violent metal attribute energy and intense golden rays were emitted from his body gradually. Nai Wushuang also started to levitate into the sky. They would be fighting at the highest peak of Huashan. SSS, terrifying. Their auras are too terrifying. Is this the strength of a supreme expert? In the face of them, why do I feel that we are just ants? Budding realm. Is this the aura of a budding realm expert? It's no surprise that they are looking down on the Dragon King. It's all because they are so overwhelmingly powerful. This is where a battle between supreme experts should be. At the tallest peak of Huashan, everyone's eyes were burning with frenzied passion as they stared fervently at the two figures. If only I could reach this stage in the future. That would be the greatest thing ever. Some experts couldn't help but think that way. Will it be Nai Wushuang who continues to be the king or will Emperor Qi declare himself as the emperor? Everything will be based on today's battle. The fate of the underworld lies in the hands of these two supreme experts. Disciples from some sacred clans and sects could feel themselves getting breathless as they stared fervently at the two supreme experts in the air. Nai Wushuang. Emperor Qi. My initial plan was to wait for both of you to suffer severe injuries before I crush both of you. Now, I'm just not fond of the two of you. Moreover, a real man should face a strong opponent directly and annihilate his strongest enemies. Haha, let me join you guys for some fun. Show me exactly who will be the one ruling the underworld. If you wish to claim supremacy in the underworld, you've got to ask if I, the Dragon King, will allow it. Suddenly, an exceptionally brazen and unruly voice reverberated through Huashan. A peal of frenzied laughter followed and pierced through the clouds. Boom! Boom! A stream of flames shot into the clouds, filling the sky with fire. A stream of golden rays fell from the sky as though a 1,000-meter razor-sharp longsword had pierced through the atmosphere and into the land. Two terrifying auras erupted suddenly and reverberated through Huashan. One rose from the ground while the other descended from heaven. Ah! Screams of horrors broke out suddenly. Those first-class forces and devil sects that were close to the dragon sect were screaming in horror. They were petrified, their faces were as white as snow, and they were panting profusely. Powerful! How powerful! Supreme experts! How can this be possible? How can this be possible? How can the Dragon King and his subordinates be so powerful? Even the weather is changing. They must be supreme experts. The Dragon King and the middle-aged man beside him are both budding realm expert. This cannot be. This cannot be possible. Insane. Insane. Those who had witnessed the development would definitely feel that their world had been thrown into disarray. They looked fearfully towards the column of flames and a golden long sword that reached the clouds and saw the Dragon King and the middle-aged man sustaining the release of energy. How can this be possible? Budding realm experts, and there are two of them. The Dragon King and the middle-aged man beside him are both budding realm expert. Cold sweat covered Nai Wuya's forehead instantly as his lips turned a little pale. Their enemies. Their opponents. The dragon sect which their sect leader had no regard for had two supreme experts. Everyone in the Donghua sacred sect shivered in horror and felt as if their vision had dulled a little. All the sacred clans and sects of the underworld swallowed their saliva and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Two supreme experts. With dragon sect strength, they probably could annihilate the alliance of orthodox sects or diabolism easily. The surrounding crowd felt extremely bitter. They finally understood why the Dragon King could be so fearless and annihilate whoever he wished. That was because they had the strength to support it. So what if you were Donghua sacred sect? If both parties fought with all their strength, they would probably be annihilated even if Nai Wushuang was around. As for the remains and the Crimson Bug, what the hell were they? The only option was a mockery to their initial intention. That would be for the alliance of the orthodox sects to form a separate alliance with diabolism to stand a chance against the dragon sect. However, diabolism and the alliance of the orthodox sects didn't choose to do so after the Dragon King called out the two supreme experts directly. Just as he had said, a real man should face a strong expert directly and annihilate his strongest enemy. Wow. He's too cool. The Dragon King is too cool. Far away, Zana was exhilarated after witnessing this. She started clapping and cheering loudly. The lady beside her was dumbfounded. This time, she didn't speak a word. That was because there was nothing for her to say. Everyone in diabolism was stunned and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Luckily, the Dragon King isn't part of the alliance of orthodox sects. Otherwise, I believe we would have to lie low for another 50 years. What the hell? How can there be such a terrifying force in the underworld? Experts from diabolism were scared out of their wits as they wiped away the sweat on their foreheads. In the air, the eyes of Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi, who were brimming with battle intent, subconsciously constricted. Their expressions had also sunk. This was completely beyond their expectations. A force which they had previously regarded as insignificant had two experts at the same level as them suddenly. Feeling the battle intent from them, Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi took a deep breath and looked extremely bitter. A slap. An open slap in their faces. Fight! Fight! Wang Xian shouted as his body was overwhelmed with battle intent. As he waved his arm, the fist-size nether skull grew larger as it flew into the sky. Roving Sword also shouted coldly. He extended his right arm and pointed his longsword towards Nai Wushuang. The 1,000-meter longsword was absorbed into it instantly. Terrifying aura stifled the atmosphere instantly. Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi were extremely solemn. Seeing Wang Xian and Roving Sword attacking them separately, they took a deep breath. Who would have expected this? Dragon sect. Great. Let's fight. Fight. Nai Wushuang pulled out the long sword from behind his back. In the process, sounds of the rings on it clashing with the metal body of the sword resounded. Emperor Qi patted his back. The next moment, the black coffin appeared before him. Ha ha. Great. Come. Show me if the supreme experts from Donghua Sacred Sect and Diabolism can kill us as though we are ants. Wang Xian laughed hysterically. A dense stream of fire dragon energy was injected into the nether skull. The close to 6-meter nether skull raged violently in black will-o-wisps instantly. Within the black flames, there were still red flames burning. Chapter 539, A Real Man Faces a Strong Opponent Directly, 4. Another true blue battle of the ages. The entire underworld, be it orthodox sects or diabolism, placed their attention in the sky as they craned their necks up with astonishment, respect, and fear filling their eyes. It was the trepidation of Dragon Sect. At this time, the nether skull in the sky had ballooned to a size of 5 meters, nearing 6 meters. The nether skull was burning with nether flame and the flame from the Inferno Divine Dragon. The creepy fiery red and ink black struck a stark contrast against the sky. The power of flames shrouded a range of several kilometers. Upon seeing this, Emperor Qi narrowed his pupils and slammed his palms softly on the black coffin. The lid of the coffin opened with an arm suddenly sticking out. The outstretched arm was covered in jagged scales, which looked hideous and terrifying. The pure black fingers measured more than 30 centimeters, radiating black luster. Roar. A bellow came from the coffin, which a scary one. 8-meter figure wriggled out of. Gal King. Dragon King? It was a surprise to have such a formidable force like Dragon Sect emerging in the underworld. But I'll defeat you today. Emperor Qi closed his eyes slowly. Kill. A frightful layer of scale armor overlaid itself on Emperor Qi's skin the moment he opened his eyes once again. His eyes were filled with redness, he revealed a pair of fangs, and his fingers began to grow. As though some BGM was playing, a bout of petrifying demonic aura lingered in the surroundings. Only 2 bloodshot eyes could be seen from the outside. Boom. Wang Xian made a swift move as he jumped onto the top of the nether skull and stamped his feet gently. For the past few days, he had been nurturing the nether skull just like he'd done with the Dragon Ball. Hence, he could control it more easily. Also, the power of the nether skull was much more compelling than the time when Deity Lady used it. After all, it was a level 12 spiritual weapon. Mixed with a black flame, the fiery red flame was spewed out from the nether skull. The flame, which covered a surface area of 12 meters, struck at Emperor Qi. My Gal King and I have gone through refining 1,000,000 times. How can we get burned by this type of flame? 2 pairs of bloodshot eyes glowered at Wang Xian. The Gal King beside Emperor Qi jerked before all the demonic aura entered their bodies immediately. Hideous-looking armor appeared on them. Both of them ducked and dodged the fire attack, charging at Wang Xian. The 2 figures drew an arc in the sky as they raked their unsightly, sharp claws at Wang Xian. I have maxed out all the power in the nether skull. Let me see if you can force me to transform myself. Seeing the incoming assault from Emperor Qi, Wang Xian revealed a faint smile on his face. Wang Xian had been standing on top of the nether skull initially, but he slowly submerged himself into the skull. Boom. Emperor Qi and the Gal King reached him at almost the same time he entered. Daunting flames burst out from the ears, nose, eyes, mouth, and chin of the nether skull. Sizzle. The flame was destructive, giving off high temperatures that encompassed a range of 1,000 meters. Ka. Back at the tallest peak of Huashan. All the rocks in the summit were burned into ashes after the entire area was shrouded by nether flame. When the breeze came, it sent the ashes flying. Huashan, which was 2,000 meters tall, was brought down by 300 meters. How horrifying it was. It's the will-o-wisp. Emperor Qi had a drastic change in his expression when the flame shrouded them. A will-o-wisp was a flame that was released from human bones. Such a flame contained daunting destructiveness, in particular to Emperor Qi, who was a zombie. The Gal King let out a shriek as Emperor Qi made a move and disappeared out of the flaming range. His face was incredibly dull. After Emperor Qi and the Gao King left the attacking range of Nether Skull, Wang Xian slowly emerged from the Nether Skull as he fixed his cold eyes on Emperor Qi. "Did you call me an ant?" Wang Xian stared at Emperor Qi with a disdainful look. Clang clang clang. At this time, the sound of metal clashing was heard from the side. 1,000 meters of sword radiance filled the sky with a deafening sound. Bam, bam, bam. The walls of Huashan Mountain let out an explosive sound when they came in contact with the sword and blade radiance. Spiritual Sword World. Roving Sword was holding his long sword as he wielded the air with it. Sword radiance halted in the air with each strike. Within moments, hundreds of long swords coagulated in the air. The long swords were pointing at Nai Wushuang in all directions. Blade rules the world. A ferocious look surfaced on Nai Wushuang's face as he held his long blade in both hands. His body swirled fast and furiously, while terrifying metal radiance hurled at that space in the air. Boom boom. The long blade of Nai Wushuang slashed at the incoming long swords that were chasing after him. The entire sky was filled with radiance from the swords and blade within a radius of 1,000 meters. Bang, bang, bang. As the swords and the blade clashed, the metallic sword and blade radiances did not disappear. Instead, they rebounded off in all directions. Boom. The explosive sound was heard again as the tallest summit of Huashan had been shaved by another few hundred meters. Within a short period of time, the two battles had shaved the entire summit by close to thousands of meters. All the martial artists from the orthodox sects and diabolism were dumbfounded by what they had seen. They could not help but draw a cold breath. Is this the daunting power of a supreme expert? The repercussion of the battle actually cut the summit of Huashan in half. The force could almost tumble the water and overturn the sea. It was destructive. If they attacked a mountain, they probably could bring down a mountain that was 2,000 to 3,000 meters tall in 1 second. This is a battle between gods. The Dragon King and the middle-aged man with the sword were super powerful. In the exchange of blows just now, Emperor Qi was suppressed by the flames while sect leader Nai Wushuang was only passively defending. 10,000 people retreated to somewhere behind as some of them watched the battle in the sky with trepidation. They were really afraid that the tallest peak of Huashan would be knocked down, slamming right onto them. All the martial artists below Inborn would be crushed by the frightening mountain. They were also apprehensive of the sharp radiance and the flame in the sky. What if they fell on them? Who could defend themselves from it? Even Inborn experts would be killed by that scary repercussion of the battle. The strength of the dragon sect far surpasses any sacred sects or sacred clans. Some of the Laozu and Supreme Elders quivered slightly while watching the battle. In the face of such a strong opponent, they could not even survive a single stroke. He must win. The sect leader must win, and so must Emperor Qi. At this time, the group of experts from Donghua Sacred Sect was looking malevolent. The domineering Dragon Sect and Dragon King. Only when their sect leader and Emperor Qi claimed victory would their anxiety subside. At the same time, the group of people from diabolism also glued their eyes on the sky. In their hearts, they were silently cheering for their god. And even for Nai Wushuang. This time, diabolism and orthodox sects were short on banners. Otherwise, they would have raised them and shouted, "Go, Nai Wushuang! Go, Emperor Qi! Both of you must do your best! Go, go, go!" Chapter 540. A real man faces a strong opponent directly. 5. Irony. The alliance of the orthodox sects and so-called diabolism was undoubtedly the greatest source of irony currently. The supreme expert from the alliance of orthodox sects and diabolism had arranged a duel. In the end, a third party interfered and forced both parties to stand on the same line, cheering for each other. This was undoubtedly the greatest irony. Nonetheless, both parties hoped the other side would emerge victoriously. This was because if Dragon Sect won, they would rule supreme in the underworld in the future. There would be no darned difference between the orthodox sects and devil sects. When that time came, all of them would have to lower their heads. It was especially so for Donghua Sacred Sect. They could already envision that if their sect leader was defeated, their Donghua Sacred Sect would also be annihilated. Dragon King. There's no room for your arrogance. Emperor Chi's expressions turned contorted from fury. He took a deep breath and opened up his arms. SSSSSS. The Ghoul King looked across Wang Xian with chilling eyes. Similarly, he opened up his arms, moved and appeared behind Emperor Chi. With their backs facing each other, dense devilish aura shrouded them. The scale armor on them covered and extended till both of them had merged into one. The Ghoul King and Emperor Chi shut their eyes at the same time. When they reopened their eyes had turned blood red. Two pairs of identical eyes with identical expressions. Emperor Chi revealed his fangs gradually. Behind him, the Ghoul King imitated his actions. Binary corpses cogenesis, catastrophic annihilation. Binary corpses cogenesis, catastrophic annihilation. The strongest cultivation arts of the Devil Corpse Palace. 200 years ago, two zombies rose from a graveyard. One was a man and the other was a woman. They had a terrifying move known as binary corpses cogenesis. At that time, the two zombies killed several hundreds of thousands of people. Countless experts were killed. In the end, Devil Corpse Palace relied on the Mara's coffin to suppress and eliminate them. Who could have expected Emperor Chi to have successfully mastered the binary corpses cogenesis? When the crowd from Diabolism saw Emperor Chi and the Ghoul King executing the cogenesis, they were astonished. Devil Corpse Palace specialized in turning their own bodies into zombies and also turning opponents into zombies which they could control. The most powerful move of all was the binary corpses cogenesis. This was the strongest art of Devil Corpse Palace. Binary corpses cogenesis, catastrophic annihilation. Wang Xian stood on the nether skull while staring at Emperor Chi combining with the Ghoul King. Come, release all your energy. Wang Xian sank into the nether skull gradually. Boom. With will-o-wisps and the flames of the Inferno Divine Dragon raging, Wang Xian controlled the nether skull to attack Emperor Chi. Emperor Chi's eyes were fixed on the nether skull. He grinned and his fangs grew to twice their original size instantly. At the same time, his nails also extended to twice their original length. Through binary corpses cogenesis, he could release twice the amount of strength. Boom. Emperor Chi gathered energy and streams of black devilish aura circled around him. He pivoted off and struck towards the nether skull directly. All the crowd could see was a black shadow flashing across. Boom. Terrifying shockwaves from clashes reverberated out and the immense recoil forced Emperor Chi and Nether Skull back by more than 1,000 meters each. Roar, roar, roar. Emperor Chi growled and extinguished the will-o-wisps around him. Ka. As for the Nether Skull, its upper and lower jaws clattered rapidly and the flames from its eyes raged even stronger. Standing within the Nether Skull, Wang Xian released dense flames into the Nether Skull. Who are you? Why haven't I heard of you before? I wouldn't kill one without a name. Tell me your name. At the other end, Nai Wushuang's unkempt hair dispersed, looking like a mad scientist. Each strand of hair was like a golden needle. He looked even more wild and unruly than the golden lion on TV. 2. His body was emitting golden rays, both of his hands were on the longsword and he was shivering a little. In each minute movement, the rings on the longsword would clash with the sword in a unique rhythm. Nai Wushuang's golden eyes were locked on Roving Sword vigilantly. The current Nai Wushuang could be considered an unparalleled swordsman. Before Nai Wushuang, Roving Sword stood upright. The long sword in his hand seemed to have merged with his hand. However, the glow of the sword was being emitted from all parts of his body. It was as though his entire body was a razor-sharp long sword. The golden swordfish race's initial weapon was the sharp bill on its head. Now that the bill had transformed into a long sword, there were more variations in attacks and the attacks would also be sharper. The Dragon King has bestowed upon me the name of Roving Sword. I'll be the sword of the Dragon King. Roving Sword had its eyes fixed on Nai Wushuang without any expression. In his eyes, there was only his enemy, Nai Wushuang. Nai Wushuang couldn't help but shiver a little just by locking eyes with Roving Sword. The Dragon King has bestowed upon me the name of Roving Sword. I'll be the sword of the Dragon King. Nai Wushuang tightened his grip on the long sword and was clearly becoming wary. A supreme expert like him could grow into a terrifying existence. In the path of swordsmanship, The strongest technique was merciless swordsmanship. The main purpose of a sword was for killing. Merciless swordsmanship was developed to slay everything in its path. A person like him could very well be enlightened on swordsmanship and enter the realm of immortal. Nai Wushuang was exceptionally solemn. Immortal was above the budding realm. To break through to the immortal realm, one had to have the energy. Besides that, one had to gain the so-called Tao or conception. Fire conception, earth conception, metal conception, and others. Other than the elemental conception, there was also the conception of swords. As compared to elemental conceptions, the conception of swords was harder to achieve. No sorrows, no happiness, no fear and no regard formed the basis of the merciless swordsmanship. Dragon King bestowed upon him the name of Roving Sword. Oh gosh! That supreme swordsman is, in fact. The statement of Roving Sword had started a lively discussion among the crowd. What did he mean by that? Did he mean that he was the sword of the Dragon King and the subordinate of the Dragon King? The supreme swordsman is the subordinate of the Dragon King. This is the invincible Dragon King. Whenever I feel that the Dragon King is incredible, he ends up achieving more insane things. A supreme swordsman as a subordinate, and his name was bestowed upon him by the Dragon King. This has completely overturned my common sense. Who in the world could possibly stop the Dragon King? The crowd felt a little dejected by now. They had all thought that he might be the Dragon King's brother or maybe just a friend. None of them would have ever expected him to be a subordinate of the Dragon King. A supreme expert as a subordinate. Namo Amitabha. Various Buddhas, please allow Emperor Qi and Nai Wushuang to emerge victoriously. I sincerely pray for it. Within the Devil Spirit's temple, the disciples shut their eyes and prayed sincerely with their bloody Buddha beads. The development had made the alliance of orthodox sects feel a little speechless. A group of bloodthirsty devil monks believe in Buddhas? What the hell? Nonetheless, they could understand the prayers of the Devil Spirit's temple. If Dragon King won, there would only be a single voice left in the underworld. Regardless, there were still some people who looked down on what the Devil Spirit's temple was doing. Kill the Dragon King and that roving sword. Sect leader Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi, kill them. At this moment, beside Donghua Sacred Sect, the young lord of Sea Serpent Island clenched his fist tightly and shouted. At that instant, several dozens of thousands of people looked over. Seeing the contorted expression on the young lord of Sea Serpent Island and his father, they felt bewildered. If the dragon sect wasn't annihilated, Hai Jiao would definitely die. The young lord of Sea Serpent Island naturally knew about the outcome. Therefore, he disregarded how people would view him and cheered for both Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi from diabolism. Even so, all he was able to provide was emotional support. Senior brothers, those are the enemies of the Dragon King. Let's kill them all. When Mo Qinglong saw the young lord of Sea Serpent Island, he looked at him with contempt. He turned around and spoke to the 5 Dan Realm Golden Swordfish Race experts. The Golden Swordfish Race belonged to the Dragon Palace and could be considered to be the same as the Dragonians. Since they were stronger than him, Mo Qinglong didn't find it weird to call them his senior brothers. Alright, as you have said. 5 level 11 Golden Swordfish Race experts nodded their heads emotionlessly and turned towards where the Lord of Sea Serpent Island was standing. A cold and ruthless light flashed across the eyes of Mo Qinglong while dense killing intent welled up within him. Hai Jiao. We will finish you off for the Dragon King right now. Chapter 541. A real man faces a strong opponent directly. 6. Hai Jiao. We will finish you off for the Dragon King during this time. The great war between supreme experts on the Huashan summit had struck fear and awe into many people below. Those ancestral sect experts who had feuds with Dragon Sect were praying in consternation. Yet, an icy bellow was heard at this time. What? Hai Jiao was slightly stunned, with a surprised and awful look. All the surrounding experts in the underworld were taken aback, too, as they spun around in astonishment. Upon seeing the disciples of Dragon Sect stepping forward, they all had a drastic change in expression. What is the Dragon Sect doing? Are they clearing away all their enemies? The Dragon King and that middle-aged swordsman are battling with sect leader Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi of Diabolism in the sky. Don't tell me the Dragon sect is clearing their enemies below. Hai Jiao is on their target board, and is considered finished. He can only blame his son for it. If the young lord of Sea Serpent Island hadn't tried to kill the Dragon King, things would not have turned out this way. Death will be their ending. The surrounding crowd was discussing with horror when they saw Dragon sect glowering at Hai Jiao. Hai Jiao's expression took a drastic change, replaced with a malevolent look. He stared daggers at all the people from Dragon sect with frenetic killing intent darting out from his eyes. Kill me. You guys want to kill me? I shall slaughter all of you here today, leaving nothing to remain for the Dragon sect. Hai Jiao released murderous aura as the double horns behind him emerged in his hands. Behind him, his subordinates were also staring coldly at Mo Qinglong and the rest. Now the Dragon King and the other supreme expert are engaged in fights. Yet, you guys are still thinking of killing us. The young lord of Sea Serpent Island also turned ferocious as if he was a completely different person. Under the pressure of the two supreme experts, their mindset was somewhat twisted. Father, let's kill them all. All of them from the Dragon sect. After that, we'll flee to the sea. I don't believe the Dragon King can find us. The young lord of Sea Serpent Island growled with insanity in his eyes. That's right. We'll run and hide in the ocean. Not even a supreme expert could find us. Since the Dragon sect is trying to exterminate me, I'll retrieve some interest today. Hai Jiao strode forward with double horns clenched tightly in his hands. Behind him was the sound of tumbling waves. All the surrounding people stared at the shocking move and gasped as they quickly give way to Hai Jiao and his gang. Hai Jiao and his son are crazy. They have gone mad. Mad? How could he not go mad? Hai Jiao is a must-kill on the Dragon King's list. When either the Dragon King or the middle-aged swordsman emerge as the winner, the underworld will belong to the Dragon sect. Hai Jiao will not have any place in underworld. When that time comes, he'll be doomed for sure. He's not going to die in silence. Hai Jiao is going to put up his last resistance and fight back. Seeing Hai Jiao and the young lord of Sea Serpent Island, all the people sighed. He was the former second strongest in the underworld who had enjoyed glorious moments, an unparalleled expert that no sacred sects would dare to mess with. Now, he was forced to a point that almost drove him crazy. Hayak, I'll wipe the Dragon sect out. I'll see how the Dragon King is going to seek me out in the vast ocean. There was manic killing intent on his face. Before Mo Qinglong and his gang could look for him, he stalked toward them instead. Apart from the Dragon King, Dragon sect seems to have no other Dan realm expert. These disciples of Dragon sect are simply insolent. They don't have any Dan realm experts among them, while Hai Jiao was considered to be the second strongest in the underworld after all. Seriously, are the disciples of Dragon sect going to get killed by Hai Jiao? The surrounding crowd was surprised as they watched how the event unfolded. Wuya, shall we strike too? Since Dragon sect has no Dan realm expert now, we can just eliminate them easily. Back at Donghua Sacred Sect, an old man clenched his fists tight with murderous intent in his eyes. There was a constant mixed expression on Nai Wuya's face. He craned his head up and watched the war in the sky before turning to Mo Qinglong and the gang again. Suddenly, his eyes were fixed on the members of the Golden Swordfish clan who were holding razor-edged swords in their hands. Seeing their indifferent, unwavering expressions, his eyes narrowed. No. Those people look similar to the swordsman named Roving Sword. Nai Wuya took a deep breath with eyes fixated on them. Ha! That old man was slightly taken aback as he looked over his shoulder and sized up the Dragon sect's members in bewilderment. Dragon sect, I'll wipe you guys out completely in the meantime. Hai Jiao repeated what Mo Qinglong had said to him in the exact words as the water current began to circulate frantically around his body. A daunting aura erupted, causing all the martial artists to stagger back in horror. Seeing Hai Jiao walking over with guts, trying to kill them off, Mo Qinglong was slightly surprised, but there was a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Senior brothers, that Hai Jiao is a Dan realm expert. Please help us out. Mo Qinglong quirked his lips slightly as he spoke to the few golden swordfish beside him. Leave it to us. A golden swordfish nodded coldly. When they witnessed Hai Jiao and his men striding over with malevolent expressions, no emotions were found in their eyes. Go to hell, everyone from Dragon Sec. Fuck you all. Hai Jiao growled ferociously as he strode. The water energy was circulating madly around him. All the people within a few kilometers could hear the tumbling waves in the body of Hai Jiao. Under such daunting pressure, Hai Jiao had exploded even stronger combat power than ever before. Hai Jiao's strength is scary. He's too strong, way beyond any average Dan realm expert. He's indeed the former second strongest in the underworld. Oh no, the disciples of Dragon Sect were acting way too brazen, just like their Dragon King. They thought Hai Jiao would be wary of the Dragon King, and dare not strike. But even a rabbit will bite if it panics. Sensing the domineering strength from Hai Jiao, the surrounding crowd was looking shocked in their eyes. However, more people were staring at the golden swordfish gang with their longswords in their hands. Simply because they looked like roving sword. Could it be slaying spiritual sword? Return of the spiritual sword. Just when all the people had their own thoughts, two icy cold voices were heard. Just like the cold voice of the compelling swordsman in the sky. A spiritual sword that was 100 meters long lurched forward with unparalleled sharp radiance. Another spiritual sword of the same size with the same sharpness darted out from behind and returned. Two frightful golden radiances rushed out from the front and the back. The return of the spiritual sword. Chapter 542, Void Space Shattered. 1. Pa. What? This. What a horrifying sword. I could barely control the long sword in my hand. In an instant, all the surrounding swordsmen felt their treasured swords shaking violently. They held on to their long swords in horror while looking ahead of them. Two sword strikes. Charge and return. They were from two different people. When the sword was released, the group of subordinates behind the Lord of Sea Serpent Island were instantly killed by the returning sword. They couldn't put up any resistance at all. That terrifying edge easily penetrated their bodies. What? The Lord of Sea Serpent Island was flabbergasted. The moment the two swords appeared, a deathly threat had him surrounded and sent chills down his spine. No! Father, save me. At this moment, the young Lord of Sea Serpent Island cried for help in horror. No. Dragon Sect, I won't let you off even if I die. The Lord of Sea Serpent Island held onto the two horns and roared loudly with a contorted expression resembling a wretched demon. Terrifying water energy was contained within the two horns. He spread both of his arms towards the approaching swords from the front and back. The charging sword and the returning sword were simply too fast. There was no time for the Lord of Sea Serpent Island to escape. Moreover, he had his son with him. He couldn't just leave him behind. Hai Long stood before the Lord of Sea Serpent Island, shivering in fear. Rumble. Two extreme swords emitted dazzling golden light that shrouded the Lord of Sea Serpent Island and his son. I'm not convinced. A blinding light exploded from where Hai Jiao was. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but shut their eyes and turn their heads around. Nothing is left. At this moment, a surprised scream broke the silence. Everyone turned towards the location where the Lord of Sea Serpent Island was previously. All of them were dumbfounded. Nothing. There was indeed nothing left. There were no signs of humans at all. The Lord of Sea Serpent Island was completely crushed by the sword. Not even his ashes remain. A Dan realm expert from a sacred clan was filled with horror as he looked blankly at where Hai Jiao was standing previously. What a terrifying sword glow. They are all terrifying Dan realm experts. Why would there be so many terrifying experts appearing from the Dragon Sect? A sect leader of a sacred sect looked in the direction of the Dragon Sect while shivering in fear. The two middle-aged men that had struck previously put away their swords. With a sword from each of them, they had killed the previous number 2 expert of the underworld. Gulp. Everyone couldn't help but swallow back a mouthful of saliva. Is this the full strength of the Dragon Sect? How many Dan realm experts do they have? Cold sweat broke out on the foreheads of some people. Nai Wuya and the experts from Donghua Sacred Sect could feel their hearts palpitating violently as their vision dulled. They were afraid that the Dragon Sect would target them now and annihilate the entire Donghua Sacred Sect. They were even more afraid after seeing how terrifying the Dan Realm swordsmen from the Dragon Sect were. That would only mean that the supreme swordsman fighting with their sect leader was even more insane. Would their sect leader win against that swordsman in battle? Amitabha. It's better for the underworld to have fewer killings. Amitabha. At the location of diabolism, all the devil sects could feel their hearts skip a beat when they witnessed the two experts from the Dragon Sect killing a powerful Dan Realm expert with a sword each. Even the powerful Dan Realm experts from the Devil Corpse Palace were deeply fearful. As for the devil monks from the Devil Spirits Temple, they could only recite Amitabha and pray. At this moment, everyone in the crowd was looking towards Dragon Sect in fear. Too strong. Too strong. Even without the Dragon King, the disciples of the Dragon Sect could still crush the entire underworld. No one would be a match for them. In a deserted area at the bottom of the tallest peak of Huashan, Zana had become the most frenzied fan of the Dragon Sect. She exclaimed loudly with excitement. The lady beside her pursed her lips and was filled with astonishment. Despite the Dragon King being engaged in battle, the remaining Dragon Sect could still suppress the entire underworld. This was the most fearsome thing about the Dragon Sect. Oh gosh! Look! What's that? What's that? The void space is shattering. Their battles are shattering the void space. At this moment, an exclamation broke the silence and caught everyone's attention. The crowd immediately looked over. At this moment, Nai Wushuang and Roving Sword had entered into close-range battle mode in the air. Within a radius of 1,000 meters of their battle, dense sword glows filled the air. Both their bodies were emitting golden rays like a blinding sun. Each clash would crush the surrounding sword glows. The terrifying battle closely resembled the coming of Ragnarok. Bam! Once again, Nai Wushuang clashed together with Roving Sword. Terrifying metal attribute energy tore an opening in the void space. This tear was roughly a meter long. When the tear appeared, even Nai Wushuang was filled with horror. He looked in horror at the world within the tear in the void space. Subconsciously, he recalled a record he had read in a secret book previously. Could it be? Nai Wushuang's eyes constricted as he shouted, "Ah!" Bam! It was another violent clash followed by Nai Wushuang and Roving Sword separating rapidly. Heh! Roving Sword had also noticed that terrifying tear in the void space. Doubt filled his eyes. Oh gosh! That's really a tear in the void space. It is said that when one reaches the immortal realm, he can rip a tear in the void space. Could their battle be the reason why the void space was ripped apart? Below the battle, the crowd couldn't help but exclaim after witnessing the tear. This was a tear in the void space. A tear in the void space? No. Budding realm experts would never be able to rip a tear in void space. Even immortal realm experts would find it to be extremely difficult to do so. The Dan realm experts stared vigilantly at the 1-meter-long tear. All of them were shocked. Undoubtedly, there was indeed a tear in the void space. Boom! At this moment, Wang Xian controlled the nether skull. From the eyes of the nether skull, extreme flames from the Inferno Divine Dragon and the Will-O-Wisps had coalesced. The combined flames were extremely viscous and thick as they swept towards Emperor Qi, who had used the binary corpse's cogenesis. Rumble! Emperor Qi's terrifying claws fell on the surface of the nether skull. The terrifying impact sent earth-shattering shockwaves across. After each collision, a crack would appear before them. A tinge of surprise and shock flashed in Emperor Qi's blood-red eyes. He pivoted and appeared 1,000 meters away within seconds while staring at that tear. Wang Xian also frowned as he observed the tear in the void space. Their battle had torn the fabric of space. Wang Xian was doubtful. The tear appeared for 1 second and disappeared in the next. Could their terrifying battle reach the level where they could rip apart the fabric of space? Seeing the cracks of space between the battle of Emperor Qi and the Dragon King, the crowd from the underworld was dumbfounded. Chapter 543, Void Space Shattered. 2. The battle stopped briefly because of the crack in the void space. Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi squinted their eyes as they peered at the location where the crack appeared. As old freaks who had lived for over 2 centuries, they were much more knowledgeable than Wang Xian. They had heard of some legends and secrets in the underworld. Given their current strength, it was impossible for them to make a crack in the void space. There was only one possibility left if it wasn't the void space crack. It was the crack of an array. Nai Wushuang squinted his eyes and surveyed the surroundings with a grave expression. Emperor Qi did the same thing, too, as he revealed a pondering look. Wang Xian witnessed the diminishing crack in the void space, and his curiosity was piqued. Blue and red radiance began to flicker in his eyes. Overwhelming energy filled the landscape. Is it an array? Did our battle trigger some array over here? But this array should be a type of defense or concealing array. Wang Xian used his piercing eyes to survey the surroundings and pondered to himself. He stood on top of Nether Skull, looking towards Emperor Qi and Nai Wushuang after coming out of the Nether Skull. What is it? Do you guys know something about this? Emperor Qi looked at Wang Xian coldly without a word. Nai Wushuang, too, replied with nothing as he swept cold gazes at Wang Xian and Roving Sword. Since there are no answers from both of you, let's continue. A tinge of a sneer flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. Nai Wushuang and Emperor Qi obviously knew something, but neither of them was willing to divulge anything. Since neither of them spoke, then the fight shall continue. He would be able to get some information after killing them. Wang Xian submerged himself into the Nether Skull, and flames burst out from the skull once again. The daunting flame from the Inferno Dragon and Nether Flame shrouded the area within 1,000 meters. Upon seeing the domineering flame exploded from Nether Skull, Emperor Qi had the same grave expression on his face again. Clang! Along with thousands of beams of sword radiance behind him, Roving Sword swung his long sword in the sky, pointing at Nai Wushuang. Phew, I must kill you. Nai Wushuang exhibited a resolute look. There were 2 supreme experts in Dragon Sect. So long as the 2 remained alive, there would be a high possibility that Donghua Sacred Sect would get annihilated. Hence, he had to kill one of them. Nai Wushuang spun the long blade in his hand with the rings on it clashing against each other again. Kill. Killing intent surged in Wang Xian. When fighting with supreme experts, he needed to give his best, especially when he did not transform into a divine dragon. Also, the strength of Emperor Qi was not as strong as he had imagined. Compared to the budding realm expert he had met in Dubai, Emperor Qi was weaker by little. On top of that, the Nether Flame had a natural suppression for Emperor Qi. Wang Xian was confident that he could defeat Emperor Qi without turning into a divine dragon. Even though most of the time he was just relying on the daunting power of the Nether Skull. The skull that was almost 6 meters in size was burning with a frightful flame in the sky. Its mouth was wide open as it lurched forward toward Emperor Qi. With binary corpses cogenesis, Emperor Qi revealed a solemn look. He raised his scary-looking nails at Wang Xian and darted out. At this time, he was facing the same plight as Nai Wushuang. There was no retreating. Once he backed off, it would mark the failure of all of Diabolism. The underworld would belong to Dragon Sect, and Diabolism would have to hold the Dragon King as their supreme leader. Otherwise, they would be annihilated by Dragon Sect. Therefore, he had to kill Wang Xian off so that Diabolism would not be under his suppression. With one of the supreme experts from Dragon Sect dead, they could create a situation of tripartite confrontation. At the very least, they would not need to succumb to anyone. Boom boom. Every strike of Emperor Qi that landed on the Nether Skull sounded horrible as they left white traces on the surface of the Nether Skull. Yet, the demonic aura was rapidly diminishing under the burning fire of the Nether Flame. Even the skin on his arm had turned grey. Today, I shall slay you, Dragon King. Emperor Qi revealed bloody red, terrifying glow in his eyes with each blow that impacted the Nether Skull. His body was spinning at a high speed around the skull. As a zombie, his physical strength was incredibly scary. The Nether Flame followed like a shadow as it pounced onto Emperor Qi without stopping. The destructive power of the flame had caused the arm of Emperor Qi to be left with just bones. On the outside, it looked incredibly creepy. Wang Xian stood within the Nether Skull, looking out at Emperor Qi with cold eyes. Even if he dragged it on, he could undoubtedly bring Emperor Qi down. Binary corpses cogenesis, heaven and earth crumple. After dodging the nether flame, Emperor Qi rose higher to the sky. In a split second, he had risen to an altitude of 10,000 meters. From the audience's view below, Emperor Qi had already disappeared from sight. Binary corpses cogenesis, heaven and earth crumple. It's that move. It's that move. At this time, a group of Devil Corpse Palace experts watched the disappearing of Emperor Qi in the sky with excitement in their eyes. They fixed their eyes on the sky. Is this his best move? Wang Xian witnessed Emperor Qi lifting himself up while his body spun rapidly. He intended to swoop down with such a stance. There were 2 arms and 2 heads glaring at him coldly. The demonic aura around him pumped up, just like a growing tornado. He was going to charge down at such frightful speed. What horror! He's going to swoop down from that height. In that case, both Emperor Qi and the Ghoul King could attack at the same time. With that horrifying spinning demonic aura that reached a few thousand meters high, it is as good as a tornado made by demonic aura. Back on the land, everyone was focusing on the central position where the daunting demonic aura spun like a tornado, concealing the entire sky. It was about to strike from a high point in the air. This was the true blue devil that descended on the world. This could be the strongest move that Emperor Qi has. Does he want to determine the winner now? All the people from the crowd were staring hard at the sky with uneasiness. Since that's the case, let's give our last blow of attack. Wang Xian revealed a smile. Making a swift movement, he appeared below the nether skull. With both Wang Xian's arms swinging, all the nether flame exploded out from the nether skull. A bone-crushing sound was heard from the skull as though it was going to collapse at any moment. Boom! The nether skull charged out at Emperor Qi like a meteor. Wang Xian was not concerned as to whether the nether skull would be damaged under such a formidable impact. This thing was just a secondary weapon, and the nether flame in the skull would continue to dissipate in combat. Hence, it needed constant replenishment. The only way to replenish it was at the cost of lives. This was somewhat troublesome for Wang Xian. Destroy. Insane fighting spirit overflowed from the eyes of Emperor Qi. With domineering strength and demonic aura, he charged at the nether skull. You're no match for me. Meanwhile, Roving Sword's longsword was slashed down on the long blade of Nai Wushuang. The 2 of them staggered back for 1,000 meters. Roving Sword took a deep breath. With slow motions, he grabbed the long sword with both hands and pointed it at Nai Wushuang. I'll not be defeated. Nai Wushuang raged as golden beams of light fired out from his body.